Welcome back to another episode of Off Centered. We are live back again. 2 weeks just flew by, boys. How we doing? How's everybody doing tonight?
What's up, boys?
Good.
I'm still waiting in line for Topps Heritage.
Yeah,
Just
Neo is
refresh.
700,000 in line for Topps products.
Yeah, it's worse than Destin's rival. I'm still waiting in line for Topps Heritage.
All right, you figure that out.
Gee,
I
amateur hour.
didn't spell Brian wrong, but I spelled hobby wrong. I spelled it Hooby.
We can go back and change
Hey,
that.
what's the correct spelling of his last name though? Is it Gray or Grey? Because Ham has it with
Gray.
There you go. That's how my last name is spelled. It's crazy because until today, I don't even think you guys knew what my last name was.
Of course, I know what your last name is.
Yours is Gray the other way, right?
Yeah, yours is with an E.
Yeah, but you kept saying in chat, "Hey, what time is Gray coming on?" Or what are we going to talk about with Gray? And I'm just like, you guys do know that's my last name too, right?
Yeah, your last name is Steve.
Nah,
Your
it's spelled
first name is Flipping.
No, mine's spelled the same.
No, it's Flipping Steve.
Well,
All
my
right.
last name is spelled with an A.
Anyway, guys, we have a highly controversial show tonight. We've built it up as big as it can be. This is like Ali and Frazier. The four horsemen of the hobby apocalypse are going up against the final boss of repacks, Brian Gray. He's actually he's on right now. He's in the background. And so
Technically, with all the squares here, we can almost make Voltron.
I had come off chat and then I get back to the chat and Brian is already firing off the chat. So he's ready to roll. I think that there is a media asset that fits the bill for what we're going to talk about tonight. And we'll play it.
Let's see who's got balls. Come join Big Brian on the debate stage. Who's up? I'm ready.
All right. So Big Bri, what happened here? I think we could kind of going back over the last week or so. Neo was sent or found some sort of state of California repack law verbiage that, I'll be honest, I thought that it looked like pretty specific. And I would assume, Neo, that's why you made the video on it, because it was like eerily specific on trading cards. Normally, like you read stuff and it's like, it's very vague or whatever, interpret the law however you want, but it seemed pretty specific. So I assume that's why you thought the video would probably be a good one to make on top of all the other repack stuff.
Yeah, because I've never seen anything that specifically called out, like carved out trading cards versus I think all other 49 states just have general sweepstakes laws.
Got it. Okay. On that note, Brian, he responded with his own video on his channel, and we'll go ahead and bring him in now. Big Bri, no holds barred. First off, why did you decide to go Big Bri, no holds barred for your channel name?
Well, because when I talk to people, I just call it like it is. I really give zero F's about what other people have to say about it.
Did you think were you going like full blown like wrestling mode, like a wrestling?
No, not really. But it's like, I'll be the first to say I think Tua Tagovailoa is the worst investment in the history of the hobby. If you put money in that idiot, you're done. The guy's going to get hit and be an invalid one of these days. You're basically waiting to lose all your money. With Warner Frazier, you had no notice that he was a piece of crap. With this guy, he's a walking zombie. So I don't care that people are holding his cards. I'll say Justin Herbert's a loser. The guy's never going to win a Super Bowl. He will never be a Hall of Famer. If you're spending 20, 30, 40K for a Justin Herbert card, you are a moron. But that's no holds barred because everybody has these cards. And they want you to think that they're going to be great because they all own them. But I give zero Fs. I sold Leap. I don't have to answer to anyone. I can say whatever I want. And so that's where I'm at. I just call it like I see it. If you love it, super. If you don't, sorry. It is what it is,
All right. Well, I've got a few questions that I've got lined up, and we'll kind of pepper in some things from the chat. Guys, we're here to talk about repacks tonight. We're also going to mix in a little bit of breaking, I think, because it's all in part of the gambling product world.
We're going to mix in a bunch of stuff. We're going to drive this train.
All sorts of things. Ham's been, you're ready, Ham. Okay.
I'm looking at the chops.
First question right out of the gate. What percentage of repackers in today's world would you say are selling an honest product? If you had to guess, if you had to put a percentage on it.
The number of repackers is probably 25%.
That are selling an honest product.
The amount of revenue that is honest is probably 80%. Because a small amount of people do most of the revenue. So, but the number of repackers that have popped up on Whatnot, and this is one thing, listen, I'll be the first one to say, I'll argue why repacks are legal, why they're all the things that I believe about them are important and critical to the industry. But I also am the first to recognize a lot of these little guys that pop up on Whatnot and just throw cards in boxes. I have seen atrocities. There's a channel that I can think of right now that sells spots for hundreds of dollars. They'll open 100 packs and not one card will come out over $30. I'm like, oh my God, you guys just got massacred. And they keep coming back every day and pay more and more and more because the guys on there are great hypesters. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is horrible. So, it's funny. Like, I always give myself credit, and I believe it's true. Modern repack as we know it, which is like a one card, not grab bags. We've done that since the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 70s, 80s. So I don't take credit for making grab bags. But the modern repack, buying back a graded or high-end card, one card to put in a box to create a kind of experience. 2010 Razor Rookie Retro was the first product. Mm-hmm. And then we mastered it with 2011 Best of Basketball, Best of Baseball, Best of Football. Leaf, over the course of 10 years, did over $100 million in repacks, $150 million in repacks.
Is that between 2010 and 2020?
I think we probably did $150 million in repacks.
Between that time?
And that was when no one made repacks. That we were pretty much the cutting edge. And then you had people like David Adams piggyback on with Hit Parade and Steel City with, Gold Rush. And so then people started looking. You can see their boxes look like my original boxes because they took my original box and just made the same thing. But that was really the birth of what we call repacks now. Again, someone in chat just mentioned the Walgreens. I'm not talking about when you go to Walgreens and you pay $9.99 2 cards and 2 packs. Like, that's a repack, but it's different. We're talking about the hobby repacks that are all over Whatnot, TikTok, Fanatics Live, all these places. It used to be hobby stores. We actually didn't distribute it through any other means but hobby stores originally because there were purposes for this, but we can get into that later. But I think most people do it wrong, but the people who do the most of it, I think, generally do it right with a couple of exceptions.
I've got a question. So go ahead, Neil. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so, Dustin said honest repack. What do you think, Brian, are like the minimum requirements for a honest repack?
Okay, good question. Okay, number one, I think an honest repack, when they state, first off, how many boxes are in the break, that's pretty obvious. You can see this. But any specifics they give about the break, the potential content, whether it's value-driven, player-driven, team-driven, it's got to be accurate. There were times I called out breaks. One breaker was selling team spots, and they made a checklist, which was so good, right? It's good that you make a checklist of what's in these boxes. Not many people do that. I did in 2010. It was 58 pages. The Razor Rookie checklist was 58 pages, Rookie Retro. But this breaker did a checklist, and the problem was, like, the Pats hit all their cards in the first break of the night. So when the next break came on, he was still selling the Pats. But the Pats cards had already been hit. And so I'm like, how can you sell the Pats when they're not possible? When it's physically impossible, there's no remote chance of pulling it. You're even telling people it is impossible you could hit a card. So I reported it to Whatnot and said, this has got to stop right now. That's it. It's got to stop. So I think things like that are things that are dishonest. If you tell what's in the product, you say it's a 500 floor, 10,000 guaranteed card. Those comps better be good. That's number one. If you're wrong about the comps, there should be an absolute consequence immediately.
Yeah, because people have a tendency to put cards in repacks that they never get ripped, and it takes time sometimes for somebody to go through them. And then a card changes value drastically. So what maybe they thought was a comp is no longer that comp. It could go up.
That can happen for sure. And that's why, like, when my repacks that I started doing repacks on my channel because I wanted them done right. And when I do it, they're all packed within 72 hours when the product's ripped.
When you're doing a repack, I know everybody wants a different margin. What would you think is a fair margin?
Well, it's different. Like, I sold Leaf for a bunch of money and I'm retired, so I really don't care about money. So, like, mine are built on very tiny margin. But I got to be honest, when Leaf made repacks, and I think this is okay to say because I've said it before, Leaf's margin on repacks was under 20%. Okay. We made like 16 to 18 points, and people say that's ridiculous. How can you stay alive? Well, that's where we get to the origin of why we did this. See, everyone has opinions about repacks, but does anyone know why we started making repacks in 2010? Because the products these companies made sucked. The product sucked. When you bought products from the manufacturers, the content was sucky. It was terrible. The product was terrible. The value proposition was terrible. People were getting bored out of their butts because halfway through the season, you did not want to see another J.J. Watt rookie, even though he's a great prospect. Like, you were done with these guys.
But aren't we doing that again now, just with different shiny and numbered things?
Yes, but the thing with a repack, somewhat, but there's so many products now
Yes.
That the cycle's a little bit different because we thought we had a lot back then. We have a way different now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I think the difference was we weren't about making money. We tried to create a collector experience where it would be fun to open a pack of cards because anything could come out.
Yeah.
You literally, because so many collectors who were Johnny-come-latelys to the hobby, even in 2010, way before the COVID boom, they never got to open a pack and pull an Ozzie Smith rookie or a Henderson rookie or even, a Breeze rookie. Or I know you love Breeze. Whoever it is, a Mantle, 52 Mantle or 55 Mantle, they never got to pull that. You could open a box of cards packaged and produced today where you could pull a 55 Mantle out of a pack. That is a pretty freaking amazing experience if it's done right. Mm-hmm. So our vision was we made these on zero margin as kind of a loss leader to create a product that was so widely popular in the market that every distributor would beg for it, and they would give the rest of the Leaf items a fighting chance early on and really support them because they were desperate to get my repacks. Because my prepacks, I'd come out with them and the price would skyrocket. It was crazy. I didn't ever want that because it hurts consumers when the price goes up because then the value proposition goes from 18% to stupid.
So
make a low margin product that would give people a fun experience. And obviously that's not how it is today for some people.
From 2010 to 2000, let's say 18, 19, leading up to the pandemic, and actually the hobby was kind of heating up in 18, 19 anyway, but let's just say that for the sake of argument, new product coming out was a lot more affordable than where it is today. Is it a function of, so people could afford it. They could afford hobby boxes in 2015 or whatever. Let's just use as an example. But is it a function that there wasn't as many chase cards or wasn't as many hits or wasn't as many one-of-ones coming out and that's why? Or because I'm just trying to think, or, were your repacks successful just because of lack of competition in large part?
There was no competition. And then even once there was a little bit, people liked that there was a third party company who made them, who had no skin in the game, because we just made them and sold them and we shipped them out. They were on pallets. I couldn't have told you where one thing was or another. We made them, they're put on pallets. Card people didn't even build them. I collated them, but when they actually got packed and put into cases through the machines, it was over. I collated every case of Leaf repacks, every case, $150 million worth. Me, myself, collated the cases to create cases that were the way they should be. A certain amount of ink, a certain amount not of ink. Every team represented, no double ups, no doubling of players. I wanted to make sure that we did it right. Because back then, remember, people weren't doing team breaks. In the very beginning, they just bought the boxes to open because they wanted to open them. They were personal boxes mainly. Yeah. It evolved into a team bank product.
Brian, how many repack companies do you think are out there now? And I'm not just talking about like the guys on Whatnot, like full-blood professional operations that have buyers across the country that are sending them cards that they're packaging up to then sell to, Whatnot streamers and other breakers and stuff. Like how many companies right now are actually collecting all those cards, boxing them up, and then sending out like an actual cased product?
I think very few do that. Very few send. Well, first off, no one really sends out a case product except Hit Parade and maybe Gold Rush. Most of these products are built for breakers online. You have companies like Flamethrowers who make for a backyard, which there's some relationship, whatever that is, who knows. You have the Ultimate Sweat stuff, which is the bleacher products. You have the Swish boxes. So they all have like two different operations, one that does the repacks and one that sells and does their thing, But I think at the end of the day, again, this model started different than it's become. And that's why the debate is starting to rage a little bit. Because again, if we made repacks and people just bought boxes and opened them, it'd be a little different. But things have changed. The dynamics have changed. And that's why people struggle. Like I was just in a break 5 minutes ago where spots were going for $3,000 to $8,000, $3,000 to $6,000 a spot.
Oof.
The break had 6 cards that were 10,000 or more, and 1 card that was 40,000 or more, plus some other boxes that were all 1 to 3,000. So the stakes have changed. I made boxes that I charged $200 for, that the distributor sold to stores for $220, and they sold to customers for $259. So it was a very different world back then. We didn't make $7,000 boxes, for God's sake.
Do you think there's a lot higher, like, is there a big difference in margin for the higher end versus the low to mid end type stuff, for these guys? And then also you had mentioned going back, like 15 to 20% margin was pretty standard. What would you guess, like the average big repacker makes, comparatively?
Well, I think there's 2 parts of it. First, you have the margin as they build the product. I think today the product is probably built with a 30, 35, 40% margin, 30% margin. But the margin doesn't really matter because if they're making it for the breaks, it's not about the margin. It's about what does this stuff sell for at the end of the day. Like, what do the spots sell for? Because again, the same breaker that just ran this monster break, the break before, they lost like $12,000 on a break. They lost. The people who made the repacks lost $12,000 because there's so many people doing repacks. There's times these breakers are losing money. I did 3 breaks on. I'll give you the economy of it. I did 3 breaks on yesterday night. First break, I was up a couple grand. Second break, I was up a few grand. Third break, I lost $4,000.
Now, is that because you're auctioning them off and they're not at a set price?
$1, and the last break, my cost was $985 a spot with fees to whatnot, and the spot sold for an average of $840 something.
Yeah, there is a lot more risk there versus a predetermined value where you already know what you've put into it and what you want to get out of it, and you create that margin. I've seen somebody now do it where if the big card or any card that gets hit, it gets replaced with something else on a list. So it's always being shuffled in and out. And everybody knows what's available.
That's what Arena Club does.
Yeah. And I like that structure.
That's what they do. That's why I think Courtyard, I don't know if Courtyard has the list like that, but Arena Club does. Now, if you want to get the legal issues, I think they have a potential legal issue.
I think everybody does.
I think way less do than people. Generally, everyone thinks all repacks are illegal. They're gambling. It's not. That's not.
I just worry that it starts to become a trickle down effect, and then it starts affecting everybody else.
The problem with the list, as you say, is if every card has an equal shot of being hit, there is no problem. That is going to be a legal repack.
Yeah,
Steve, go ahead.
Well, Ham said something about risk, and Brian's talking about losing at times. But as someone who works in the casino business and can relate breaking and repacking and stuff to gambling, whether you want to say it is or isn't, you can draw some direct comparisons. And I do know that on any given day, the casino doesn't know if it's going to win or if it's going to lose, but we know in the long run we're going to win. It's historical, stood the test of time. That's why casinos are still in business. So yeah, we may take a loss today. Somebody might beat us, and we might lose $500,000. But tomorrow we're going to win that back plus.
Well, see, you had a big advantage because you're working on statistical probabilities.
Exactly, but
a controlled set of
but that's what I'm saying. But repacks are also a controlled environment.
Here's the problem.
You know the inventory. But I'm saying if you know the inventory being bought and you know your cost, you know your expenses, you know inventory going into the packs, and you know what's coming out of the packs. Like you said with the checklist, people know the value of those cards in there, and you also know the initial investment up front to put said inventory into those packs. So that is a controlled environment because you're controlling what's going in and what's going into the repacks. You may not be controlling an order of which the prizes are coming out, but at the end of the day, you're not just buying cards. So you don't know what you're buying and not knowing the price that you're paying for it.
Well, see, that's the problem here is you could make repacks at a zero margin. I could make a repack that is designed to sell for $1,000 a spot that cost me $1,000 to make. If the spot sell for $1,400, I will make a bunch of money. If the spot sell for $600, I will lose a bunch of money. The thing with a casino is they're just looking at total action. They know that if a certain amount gets bet, and we don't get too far from the statistical mean, that's why they do put limits on some players. Because if you had 10 players playing $5 billion a hand, everyone else was $5 a hand, they would not like that statistical variance. They want that variance to be a little tighter. They like the big dogs, but they want a little more tight than that. Because then, like you say, over time, the numbers will play out. The problem here is, even if they build a fair repack and they do everything right, like my repack last night, the third one was perfectly built. Totally fair, totally good. We had a fun show, but I'm okay losing the money because I don't really care. But, like, it lost $4,000. And it's not like I'm guaranteed to win $4,000. I'll make it up down the line, plus, because people may never put the right value on the card or what the content is. If they misvalue the asset, it never matters. It never has to catch up. It's not like a roulette wheel. It will eventually be red. It could go 80 blacks in a row and then a red. It never, ever has to go red in this game. You can lose every time. I don't know anyone who's made money every time. No doubt about that.
How do you gauge it, Brian, here's the other thing I was just thinking about as you were saying that. It seems to me like it would be really tricky, especially if you're buying volume of slabs and maybe you've got like a pretty decent size inventory that you've built up over a few months. I mean, we know that in a few months, depending on which players' cards we're talking about or whatever, like they can move up and down in price. So trying to figure out kind of a slab, like what is a slab worth at any given moment, I feel like that's kind of a moving target when you're trying to figure out, values and what's a hit and what's not,
Well, everyone's building everything based on comps today. It's all based on comps today. So I'm buying, for example, right now, my current appetite for repack cards is $100,000 to $300,000 a week. That's what I will buy for repack. I am a buyer for repack cards, $100,000 to $300,000 a week right now.
And what price range do you normally?
$50 to $5,000.
Okay.
And I'll take 100. I'll take 150,000 to 300,000 a week consistently. I think that could grow, but right now that's the appetite. And again, I think we use comps for everything. That's why this has to go fast, because when the stuff comes in, it's got to go fast back out, because we don't want big comp movements. When the comps move, I lose. Let's say I buy from you today a Drew Brees contenders you've been holding on to forever, and you gave up on him because he's too short, although he's awesome.
That card's never going to stop going up. But anyway,
that card is so underrated. But let's say you sent it to me and we agreed on, I'll pay $3,600. It's a 4,000 comp, which we'll get back to me offering 90% of comps later. But let's say I offer you 90%. You ship it, and then one sells in Golden for $35.40. When I sell that card, I am taking a loss, because the day I ship it to the people I'm selling to, or I use it, I'm valuing it at what it is that day that I get it in hand. So I'm also taking risk, waiting for the time to come in.
But don't you think that a majority of the risk falls on the consumer?
No, because we price the breaks. Like, we tell you what the hits, we tell you the floor is 400 plus. And when I say it's 400 plus, you may not even find a card 400. Like the other day, the lowest card was like 540 when I said it was 400. That's just how it worked. But because I always try to get a floor that's well below in case there is any shift. But when we comp it out a day or two before a break, we comp it out. We say this is 400 floor. There's a guaranteed $10,000 card. We've done that 3 days before. So if I bought it and overpaid because it's gone down while it was coming to me, like you talked about Caitlin Clark or something, a card may be $500. I saw one of your other videos, Sports Card Dad, where it's $500, and the next week it may be $400. I lose money all the time on repack buying, because I buy stuff and I lose money because it gets. And I also make money because the comp gets higher, because another 86 ornate goes off and they have a wide range.
But the biggest concern with repacks is who's being fair, real, and who's not. And there's just a lot of bad people in the hobby that it's all money driven. Because some of them, they're investing everything into this, and they're probably just bad at it, so they never actually get ahead, but they think they can. And then they start using that against the people that are buying into these things, trusting them. Like, we could trust you. You have a lot more to stand for than some random dude that can just shut his stream off and run away.
Yeah, no, I think the best thing to do, and I see like Ziggy, he was upset that I didn't want to debate him first. I didn't see his thing until after.
He's a talker.
I'd love to talk to Ziggy, because he's a very passionate person. That's super. I'm kind of passionate too. The reality is, like he's saying in chat, he's like, he keeps saying, I read some of this shit. That's what gets me off balance a little bit. He keeps saying the same stuff over and over, and I'm kind of like, oh my God. I think it's a comment spamming. What I would invite Ziggy to do is go into Whatnot and go into every break of these big guys and analyze every break, which I did for about 6 months. For 6 months, I went into every major, and guess what? I shared the information with the repackers. And I did it with 3 rooms. I did it with Backyard, Swish, and Bleacher. And I was able to tell you how often teams were hitting. I was able to tell you how often teams were never hitting. I was able to tell you how often, when they said it's a 500 floor, every box was freaking 500. It wasn't like 500 floor could be 1,000. When they said 500 floor, it was like you're going to get 7 floors in one big card. I was able to tell you all those things because for 6 months I studied it. Now, the big breakers, what I found is what they advertised and what they said was true. Every so often a card would come in that undercomped. And what I try to do is set an example. He made a comment now, Ziggy, a minute ago, and I keep peeking over because I love what he says. But he said something about, Brian, do you realize a good repack is an example to a bad repack? It sets an example for a bad repack. So what I did in my break the other day, a guy pulled a Paul Skeens Chrome PSA 10 auto, rookie. I guaranteed $1,000 floor. 30 minutes before the show, one sold for $990. And we pulled it. And the guy said, one just sold 30 minutes ago for $990. So I said, hold on. I walked off screen and I came back and said, here's an $800 Michael Jordan card since you were $10 under. Is that okay? And Again, most people are not doing that. They say, "Oh, contact our customer service, we'll fix it." But I want to make an example on the screen. That not only will I make it right, but I'll go so far above and beyond. You pray that I make a mistake, because you're going to be blessed beyond if I make a mistake. If I double up a team in a break, I go get another box and throw it in, because I'm not going to double up teams. I want everyone to have that.
And you're a unicorn though with this compared to everybody else.
There you go.
Ham, don't you dare make this a cupcake deal.
No,
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
We're talking about now. Most of this has been.
When you see something you don't like, you have a choice. You can say, "Listen, this is how it can be done." Instead of writing off the category, we write off the whole category. We say repacks are horrible. Repacks got to go. They're illegal. All
right, Steve, go ahead.
No,
Steve.
I'm good.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. You guys can chill. You guys can talk. I'll chill for a minute.
All right. Well, we're going to we'll turn the tables. We'll turn the tables because is the boost in repacks and the boost of repack popularity, doesn't it have a lot to do with people getting smoked in regular breaks? And that's when they move over to a repack product. So
here's the thing.
Turn the tables a little bit on Ziggy. Ziggy owns a braking company. So you're not off the hook yourself there, buddy. It's all part of the gambling product show. So it's all like, to me, it's and even, I've watched some of the digital repacks where it's real cards coming out of the digital repacks. I watched a guy open like a dozen in a row last week, and he got about 40, 50, maybe 60% on each of these kind of things. And then he would just kind of keeping on. I didn't see a whole lot of, granted, I'm sure there's probably huge cards that are in those as well, but I didn't see it out of any of those.
Are you talking about like Arena Club, or are you talking about Courtyard? Or are you talking
it was one of them. It was one of them. And there's only I think there's only a few. So yeah, it was, I didn't see an amazing experience. I know that Jeff Wilson, pulled a $35,000 Jordan card or something with Jim Rome or whatever, but outside of that, I haven't seen a whole lot of great stuff.
I mean, I've hit some of the biggest cards ever hit in repacks on Whatnot. I hit a Purdy NFL Shield that I sold for $100,000 at the Super Bowl. I pulled a Jaden Daniels Gold Kaboom a few weeks ago that was $57,000. Last week I pulled a LeBron Refractor BGS 10 Chrome Rookie. I just sold it today for $32,000. So like, there's plenty of big cards that are getting hit. I probably buy more repacks because I'm testing. I test this all the time. You don't understand. I spend money and waste money partially because I want to figure out. I'm like Alfred Nobel in a way. He created something that was fantastic in Dynamite and terrible in Dynamite.
Yeah, but
worst invention ever.
Hold on, Steve, go.
Yeah, because my question is, you're talking about your wins. Everybody likes to talk about their wins.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that, you have lots of losses, but what I'm saying is, in order for someone to win, it's like the lottery, right? In order for someone to win, there has to be a lot of losers. So when I look at a repack, I'm like, this repack has to be funded by someone. This chase card has to be funded by someone. And a majority of the time it's funded by the losers. And that's when earlier I talked about the risk, and I said the risk to the consumer is greater than the risk of the seller. And that's because I'm going to guess a higher percentage of consumers are losers than winners. You can't tell me that 50% of the people who buy into a repack get, say, for instance, you have $400 floor and whatever you said, a $10,000 ceiling. What would be the price of your repack for that?
Yeah, 400 floor, 10. Well, we don't set the price. We start everything at $1. So that's why I never feel bad. The customer sets the price. Customers could stop it. The customers could collude quietly in chat and only bid $1, and I would get $32.
Right. I'm not going to say that all repacks are operated the same. And we kind of like this conversation has kind of been more based around how you might operate your repacks, but I want to speak about repacks in general, and I don't want to speak about repacks from 2010 because it's 2025.
Oh, new era.
And the ecosystem is completely different. The refund or the repacks are funding themselves because the people are selling their cards directly back to the people that are selling them the repack.
At a discount.
And then it's also costing, it's keeping a lot of the hobby afloat, which is something we haven't talked about because a lot of money, a lot of inventory is being bought up because it's needed as inventory for repacks. And so it's keeping a lot of cards, I would say, inflated. If you go to card shows myself and I don't get in early, by the time I get in, a lot of majority of the cards that I'd like to buy at a good price are gone because the repackers hit them up and they buy them. So not only only to sell them back to somebody who can't get access to them at a show, whether it's because they can't get in first or whether it's because they can't travel or whatever it may be. But I'm going to guess that, the percentage of people that buy into a repack, a majority of them are not hitting the price of which they paid for the repack. And yeah, you're going to have a couple of happy people and satisfied customers because they hit that winner. And it's always going to be the adrenaline and the gambling, the chase that bring people back. I know, like I said, I work in a casino. We have hotlines for that shit. We have hotlines for people who can't turn away from the adrenaline rush because gambling is their thing.
Why not? Other people should probably have that somewhere on the site. They should have something like this.
I think they will by the end of the year.
And just in case, and again, I'm not ready to call it gambling specifically yet. I think people use it as a mechanism for that, but they do that with regular boxes of cards. They do that honestly when you go to Disney. They have the little plastic claymation toys that you can buy that are blind packaged. I bought like 40 of those trying to get some freaking parallel. I got a bunch of the same ones. I wasted like $250 on those. I didn't give zero F's about them. I just wanted one certain one. And I spent all this money for nothing. But hold on, isn't that gambling? Because I was taking a chance to try to get this one. I didn't want the rest. I gave them away because they're horrible. I didn't want those little things. I wanted the chase one. That's what I wanted because it's something I collect.
Yeah, the same thing they were doing with Lego with the little gold man.
That's it.
In the past. Same exact thing, yeah.
And we did it with Cracker Jacks and we tried to hit this toy. I mean, when do we stop? At some point, people say, and I think part of it is breaks generally. Let's go one step back. Breaks generally are necessary because the cost of goods have continued to go up. The average person cannot break a box of cards, never mind a case of cards. The average person is like, you have to seriously dedicate an important portion of your income to buy a decent mid to high end box of cards now.
But how much of that is, Brian, is because 40% of new product goes straight to breakers? I mean, it's all dedicated to it now. The marketing, as you said, it's a new world, 2025. It's Instagram, it's YouTube Shorts, and all the hits are coming out. It's free marketing for the manufacturer.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? See, the problem was when cards started first, I used to work at ProSet back in 1990. There were no autographs. And that's how long I've been around this industry. I'm an idiot. I'm an old bastard. But we've been doing this forever. In 90 ProSet, we didn't have any autographs. We didn't have any game use. We didn't have all these things that were so expensive. It cost us $4.20 to make a box of cards, $3.80 to make a 36-pack count box of cards. So it was the hobby that has this thirst that once we gave them an autograph, they wanted more. Once we gave them a game use, they wanted more. Then they wanted just not a one-color game use. They wanted a patch. Then they want, it just kept going up. Paper's not good enough. Now we need technology. Technology's not good enough. Now we've got to have more to chase because there's not enough one-on-ones. You can never hit a one-on-one. So now they made one-on-one so easy. My old company you can't not get a one-on-one. It's harder to get a Leaf card that's not a one-on-one than one that is a one-on-one.
Yeah, like 5 John Travoltas in the same box.
We've just gone too far.
I guess what I'm saying though is when was the last time, if you put a product, Topps puts a product out on their website to sell direct to consumer, even Topps Now stuff, Topps Now, whatever, and they got a chase behind it. They sell the absolute hell out of it. Look at, Pokemon cards that it absolutely is gone. It's wiped out in 60 seconds on the site. Maybe it's bots, maybe it's whatever. But my point is it's not as if they're struggling to sell that stuff direct. It's, it's not as if we can't sell this direct, so send 40 to 50% to breakers. You could take, my thing is take 20%, send it to breakers and people can do their thing. And then take 20% and sell it direct. Sell all that direct to consumer. And if it sits there on the website, then send that off to the breakers too. But there's not even that opportunity. It goes to card shops and it goes to breakers.
I think it's tricky because it's the buying habit of the consumer that really drives that to some extent. You look, for example, people used to go to card shops to buy all their cards. You couldn't go into mass retail and buy cards hardly. Maybe you could go into your local 5 and Dime and buy cards, but Target did not have Topps baseball cards in 1984, 1985, 1986. They just didn't. So thinking about it that way, people then started to consume cards differently. They wanted to be able to buy cards anytime, no matter where they were in their local town. That's why retail was necessary. Then the internet retailers, the Blowouts, the David Adams, the Steel, all these guys came along because the guy that lived in Bismarck, North Dakota, could not buy a box of cards at his local retail because there was no local retail. There barely was a chain store. They probably got no cards, which some stores don't even get cards. So they had to be able to buy it from someone. They bought it from the internet retailers. So you saw over time, it went from people went to card stores. Then they started going to retail and card stores. Then they went to online retailers because online retailers and they ended up becoming low price leaders. So they even took more of the market share. The breakers have merely replaced a lot of the online retailers. A lot of that money that was going to the biggest internet retailers, a lot of that shifted to braking. And if you look at it in Japan, people are very fascinated with this style of streaming purchasing. This is a huge thing. I saw a picture that they have a streamer trying out doing modeling of clothes to sell online. She had 400 cameras set up, cell phones. They had 400 cell phones on different things, streaming on different platforms. Because it's really, think of all the beautiful things about QVC and all those things, but now you can interact with the host. Are you out of your mind? This is magical. You couldn't interact with Oprah. No, not that the same kind of hosts are here. I think we overrate most of the people who are streaming anyway. They're nothing special. I'm nothing special. But like some people do want to interact with the host. It's an experience. So when the buying habit changes, the way we supply has to change too. Do we give too much to breakers? Maybe. Do we give enough to stores? Probably not. I agree with you on that. But the fact is,
it's like we're not testing it. We're just saying like this is demand and demand is driving it. When really it's like, well, unless you buy into a break, that is like you're forced to buy into a break, or you can't, or you buy the singles market, and that's what we do. That's what a lot of us on the screen do.
And I think honestly, if you're a true collector, that's the way to go.
Well, and that's exactly
buying boxes is foolishness. Buying boxes is foolishness. If you're a true collector and you only want very focused, you want Saints, you don't need to be buying boxes of NFL. You need to be buying.
But again, everything's built like a lottery ticket now. And the biggest thing with a card or even a break or anything, at least I end up with something versus, straight pull the trigger, end up with zero. That's the thing too, that some people rationalize. Even me, I don't go to the casino and gamble. I'll take my chance on ripping wax. I don't really get into the whole whatnot stream thing because I hate waiting. Most people are not interesting to sit there, listen to, and or watch. And it just takes forever to sell a box out. And like, I want something now. So it's annoying. And Arena Club just looks like a video game.
Comment on the screen though, real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I didn't want that comment to go away. Can you go back?
Which one?
He said it's the laziest, repacks are the laziest form of scamming the consumer. What is wrong with this guy? And I'm not being mean. I'm being honest.
He just doesn't know how it works.
These guys even know what goes into making a repack. Now, I'm not talking about little guys who like put 6 on their screen they just made 5 minutes before the stream. I'm talking about the backyard bleacher switch, whoever it is, the big guys. I'm not talking about anyone in particular. David Adams has 40 employees that make Hit Parade. They have 40 employees working. You understand that in 2 years, Panini will not have 40 employees. But David Adams has 40 employees making Hit Parade. That's freaking insane. The infrastructure and what goes into it, it's not lazy. It actually is very difficult. Mm-hmm. That's why it was hard for us to make checklists at Leaf. It was 50. I had to make a 58-page checklist. Tiny, tiny, tiny to list every possible card I put in Rookie Retro. I sold 4,000 boxes and 3,400 cards were different. That's unheard of in different grades.
So David's got kind of a basic question here. And again, this is a very general question, but in the average break, how many people make money? How many break even? How many lose? Do you have a guess?
100%. I'll tell you this. It's 100% depending on the type of break it is. Because it's all volatility. It's like, for example, if you play slot machines, any of you guys, I don't want to compare it to that because it's not gambling. But I don't believe it's gambling. But I'm talking about variance. When you play Huff and Puff, with the way the bonuses come out, it's so much harder to get a bonus that your variance is going to be much wider. If the floor is 100 and the ceiling's 100,000, more people are going to lose money than make money. But if the floor is 100 and the ceiling's 250, you could end up with a 50-50 proposition or a 40-60 proposition. It really just depends. But also, last night when I lost money on a break, it's possible that half the people can win if we lose enough money on a break. I've seen catastrophic breaks where big breakers have lost $30,000 on one break. And the customers won. The customers freaking won. And it was kind of fun to watch because I wanted the customers to win. It was great. People destroyed that breaker that night. And the problem is there were 4 big shows, all with $50,000 card streams. And someone got crushed.
How is that common?
It's getting bigger. Tonight, I think there were 2 streams going at the same time. One had a 40,000, one had a 25,000.
No, I guess, what's common, like the breaker losing out like that?
Oh, I think, how about this? There's one channel where I'm friendly with the owner who told me that on his breaks over the last 2 months, they are truly losing money more than half the time. That breaker is losing money on more than half the breaks. But again, people don't get it. run the numbers, add up what the comps are. Because listen, people are paying very high for these cards. They're not getting the cards cheap. They're paying very high. So if you comp every card in the break,
some people will pay 100% comp on a card if it's
there are people that will pay 100%. I'll buy right now. Anybody listening can send me an email, brian@graysim.com. I'll pay 90% for any graded card, 50 to 5,000. That is not like a joke card. If it's like, you know what I mean. If it's like Dave Cohn 101 Superfractor, I'm not buying that. That's a piece of garbage. No one wants to hit that.
This is the best. Telling new people to buy singles, like telling your team to invest in their IRA. Boring. Yeah, it's boring.
It's boring, but you know what?
Go gamble. Go gamble.
I have a couple questions.
Go gamble all your money away.
I have a couple questions, and one of them, I don't think there's going to be statistical data or anything to give like a solid answer. It's going to be more of an opinionated or what you actually see or experience. But when it comes to buying repacks or breaking, I know we're using the term breaking a lot. I don't want people to be confused. I think we're talking breaking in the form of repacks. What would you say the percentage is of people who are buying into that for actual entertainment / enjoyment, as opposed to people who are just there for the chase because they think it's a get rich quick?
I think it depends on the room. I think there are rooms where it's purely people who are using it in a way it wasn't.
Let's talk generally. Don't
politician us, Brian.
Yeah, okay.
Because listen, I invented this the way it is today, kind of. And I'm telling you, my goal was for people not to gamble. It was to pull something out of a pack, which as a collector, I was fortunate. I collected when I could actually pull a Jordan out of a pack. I didn't because I bought football instead in 1987, 1988. I bought 84 boxes for $12 in 1987 because I like football better than basketball. But people never got to experience these cards out of a pack, and that was the goal. It wasn't gambling at that time. I don't believe it has to be that now. People will use perfectly fine things for the wrong reason every day.
I'm not asking you to define it as gambling. I'm asking you the percentage of people that just do it because they enjoy it, as opposed to the people that do it because they're chasing it. And I'm also saying in today's hobby, because you keep going back to where you wanted to pull something as a collector today, like you said earlier, yourself, collectors should just buy singles. So we're talking about people that aren't necessarily collectors. They're chasing the money. And a majority of the hobby right now, since 2020, you can look at all the social media with the content get views and everything like that, is the people who are out there buying and selling cards, not the people that are collecting cards. Believe me, I just had an interview with a big time collector, and we discussed this. So again, this hobby is more so driven by money today than it ever has been. So again, what would be your thought as a percentage of people who are doing it for the money or people that are doing it because they enjoy it?
I think in the worst rooms, 90% of them are probably buying. They're hoping to hit a card that's worth more than what they pay. Absolutely. Yeah. In most rooms. In my room, if you were there last night, you would see something a little different. Because it is more entertainment driven.
Right.
Because I had a troll in the chat who was bugging the hell out of me. And you know what I did? I stopped the show and I played the Big Sean song, I Don't F With You. And I sang it to the guy right on the stream. And people went crazy because no one ever calls out a troll. And I'm not scared to call out a troll. Right. People wanted to be there because I'm capable of saying or doing anything. And it was more about me and the entertainment than it was the product. The product was perfectly fine.
But I mean, you could be a stand-up comedian and entertain in that way. What I'm talking about is like so like again, casino experience. I have players that come in and on any given day they might lose $100,000. And they don't care. They sit there, they had a couple drinks, they conversated with people, they enjoyed it, and they looked at it as this is just an enjoyable experience. I don't care that I lost $100,000. And on the other side of the coin, there will be days when they come in and they win $200,000, right? And they react the same way that they do when they win as when they lose. They come in the same, they walk out the same. They thank you whether they win or they lose. They tip the dealers whether they win or lose because they're there for the experience and to enjoy themselves and have a good time. You also have the ones that bang the table every time they lose and cheer to the top of their lungs every time they win $20, right? Because they're there for the money. And when they lose, it hurts. And when they win, it feels good. So that's kind of the comparison that I'm trying to draw. And the other thing is, just like you said, you want your customers to win. In a casino, we need our customers to win because if they lose, it makes for a shitty experience and they don't come back because we know in the long run, we're going to beat them and we need them coming back. So we need them to win sometimes. I need my best customers and my high rollers to win. or they're going to go to another house where they win occasionally. They're going to be like, I'm not going to that casino. I lose every time I go in there. So I need them to win on occasion, because in the long run, they're going to lose. So I need them to repeat. And sometimes them winning is what I need for them to become a repeat customer. So
no, I think all those things can exist in an ecosystem where this is not only about gambling. And it's only, again, I think the problem here is repacks are vilified because most people vilify them do not buy them. Most of them don't even buy new card boxes to open because it's so freaking disgusting. Sometimes what you get, you can open a box of Flawless for $5,000 and literally get $212 worth of cards. Like, that's an atrocity to man. That is a horrible thing. It's like buying a Tesla and you open it and it doesn't have a place to charge it. And you're like, oh crap, it's missing the charger. I got a piece of junk here. It's worth 10% of what I paid. It's scrap. That's what it is. And it's worse. The return
Is there any way to govern that?
Well, it's not the problem. The problem is two things. Number one, the leagues get a lot of money. It's the licensing is expensive. And you guys, and I'm going to say you guys because I've been the advocate for unlicensed for decades. And I don't have a stake in the game. I don't work for anyone. I don't own anything. I'm just me. So when I say this, I'm not saying it for league's benefit. I don't give a shit what they do. I want them to do great for their sake, but I don't care. But you guys, the hobby is so insistent on licensing. That's why the licensing has gotten so valuable, how it's gotten so expensive, and how it's gotten to be such a freaking fight. Because without the license, half the people say, I can't deal with this anymore. We are our own worst enemy in this. I'm a collector. I'm that way sometimes, and I'm stupid when I do. We're our own worst enemy.
But do you feel, Brian, like, because I heard you say you're a collector, and you've been in the business for a long time. You were in it for long before there was a repack, but right, mystery bags going back to the 80s and all that stuff. But how do you feel about kind of where we are now, where it's really clear that there is more of a focus around the gambling element, if we're going to call it that, or gambling adjacent sports betting alternative? There seems to be a really heavy focus on that. That's kind of our hobby now. Do you have any concerns, especially for maybe younger people? I heard like a 15-year-old hit the $100,000 card. I'm like, a 15-year-old? How did a 15-year-old even buy into a break? So I guess I would classify that as, like, let's say 15 to 25-year-olds. And look, this is not just a sports card thing to me. I look, like you just said it, the leagues promote sports betting, and everybody's behind sports betting, and now it's the coolest thing in the world. But with the stories that aren't being told, and I hear a lot about this, are folks that have lost everything because of sports betting or breaks or repacks or whatever it is. They reach out to me. So how do you feel about kind of that younger generation? And I know this is all personal responsibility. Everyone's got to make their own decisions, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. But just being that you said you got in as a collector, I know that you buy singles just to buy and hold, invest in, quotation marks. So you're not just a straight repack break gambling.
No, I'm involved in every element of the industry still, even when I'm out, because I collect, I invest, I buy and sell. Will you please put up Mike Petty's comment there about Christmas repacks? That's a great comment.
Petty's here. Uh-oh.
You made a comment about inventing fudge packing. I think you put in there.
What time is it at?
8:49.
Okay, so probably
9:49.
9:49 your time, 8:49 my time. He said that they never saw a Christmas repack before I was born. Because you see these. Have you ever seen these 1960s? Like, they look like rack packs that are repacks. Those are a total scam. That is a fraud. Those are complete and utter frauds. No legitimate auction house would ever sell those packs he's referring to, because they are a fraud. They are worse than the worst repack on Whatnot. They're worse than the worst repack on. I'd rather buy a Justin Gamble repack. And you saw the crap that got. I'd rather buy his repack than buy those garbage cards where they just took commons and put them in a repack in a rack pack.
Justin Gamble.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting. The problem, it's just frustrating because people are so. And again, it's like me too. I'm very headstrong that we have to let people buy what they want to buy. Why do we have to watch? Why do we have to be pocket watchers and work on everybody else? You know why collectors hate this? Right. Because they don't want to go pay 120% of comps for singles at a show.
Well, I think it's a wheel that I think the whole thing feeds itself. So new products is too expensive. People buy into and then 40% is going to breakers, and then that's garbage. We're not getting anything back from the boxes or the breaks. So then we go to repacks. It all feeds itself. It's a wheel that turns itself. That's the way I view it. So,
yeah. But is this bad? Is it bad that cards are more liquid today than they have ever been in the history of the hobby? We have the greatest liquid. We have.
Well, you change the subject there. I agree with that part.
No, this is what repacks. This is why repacks are. They are so critical to this hobby now that if you try to remove that from the card economy, I don't think anyone's going to like what happens. Because it's.
I mean, I've been saying that for years.
So, but what part of the hobby are they hazardous to, though? If losing repack, I'm saying that
collecting aren't going to be made anymore. If there's not secondary market value to the cards where people will keep buying the boxes. There's not 70%. Mike Petty, I'll pay 90% for any graded card, $50 to $5,000 that is not just like a total nobody player who's like quirky. If it's any kind of main player, I'll pay 90%. You realize that's more than you get for diamonds. I've been in the diamond district. Diamond liquidity is not that strong. And diamonds are real hard assets. They're not 90% liquid. That's crazy, 90%.
Yeah, we make diamonds now. I don't need an old one anymore.
And I'll take 300,000, 400,000 a week at 90%. It was 70% back in the day. That's what it was like 3 years ago. And before that, it was 40%. Dealers would rip people off the other way. They'd rip them off by buying their cards for 10, 20, 30% and charge 100.
Well, card shops are notorious for that.
Of course.
There's all kinds of different levels to this hobby. And if repacks were to go away tomorrow, like you said, the hobby would be in shambles. I disagree. I think that the collecting side of the hobby would not be. I think that the people who use the hobby as their livelihood to pay their bills, they would be the ones that would then be a little nervous because, the income isn't coming in and buying and selling cards isn't working right now.
Yeah, but even if repacks went away, Steve, even collectors would be affected because their collection is going to be worth a lot less. Whether they can say they care about that or not, but your vintage Clementes and stuff, even though you don't think they're impacted by repacks, if repacks just disappeared tomorrow, that stuff would 100%.
Are people repacking Clemente rookies?
Oh, absolutely.
Even if they're not, it doesn't matter.
No, I buy at least 3 Clementes.
But a collector might look at it from that aspect and say it makes it more affordable for me to buy.
Right.
So there's going to be different ends or different sides of that coin.
Frankly, the other thing, if it ended tomorrow, I would go out and buy a Clemente rookie.
The other thing I want to make clear, because Brian used this word earlier, is I'm not here to vilify breaking. I'm not here to vilify repacks. I don't buy repacks. I'm not going to tell people to not buy repacks. People can spend their money. I work in a casino, right? That'd be totally hypocritical for me to say, don't go spend your money on what you want to do, right? You make your own decisions for yourself to do what you want to do with your money. However, I just want there to be full transparency on things. Not what are your chances of, because in a casino that is disclosed. You come in the casino knowing that more than likely you're going to lose. I will tell that to every player's face who sits down at a table. What's the best game in here for me to play to win? I'll look them dead in the eye and say none of them. None of them. But if you want to do it, it's your money. You do what you want to do. So what I'm saying is the transparency on repacks, like you said, with checklists and things like that. And that's something that you did, but that's not something that we see as a whole.
Or just some of the verbiage around like, hey, let's make you guys some money tonight. Like, look, 80% of the people aren't making any damn money. Like, I don't know. Does a blackjack dealer say, hey, let's make you guys some money tonight? I don't know. I've never heard one. I don't think they say that. They just, they just talk to you, whatever, you take your money.
But I will say more people are losing money on repack breaks, dealers, than you think are. Everyone thinks they're getting rich. They do sometimes. Because I actually, again, for 6 months, I kept track of every card, every comp. I looked at the total dollars they got. I subtracted the whatnot fee. And in cases of people like Backyard, I knew they got a better deal. So I figured they're a better deal than I heard about. So I actually calculated their returns. And the returns 1 year ago were way better than today. Way better. The repack.
So Brian, is it more beneficial to an individual to do singles on whatnot than it is repacks?
I do a lot of singles. Now the problem is,
that's why you can
attest. Problem is you lose money if you do high end singles because I go in all those streams and pay 90% for everything.
Yeah. So what's more of a moneymaker? What's more of a moneymaker, singles or repacks?
I think if someone went on there and streamed 50 hours a week with cards that are $1 to $12, you could make a freaking good living. I stream once a week for singles for 5 hours, and I make about $4,000 in 5 hours. And not one card is over $100.
That's revenue, or that's your
profit.
Take?
That's profit.
Damn.
But I'm running 5-second sudden death. I run 135 cards an hour, 150 cards an hour. And every card is between $2 and $50 usually, occasionally be $100, but like I don't run $500 cards on there. Like debut, they ran a 52 Mantle 2 sold for $42.9 on there tonight. You know, that's not the way to make money on the site. They make money because they're the best at what they do, getting people hyped up. But like this is different. So again, I think the problem, Steve, I want to go back to this 1 second, then we'll go back to this. Yeah. What do you collect?
What do I collect?
Yeah.
I collect pop culture.
Okay. So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Pop culture is beginning to be repacked now. I just got an order from someone for pop culture type cards. I've been buying Pop Century stuff off the market that's priced wrong because there's cards that are way too cheap. Like Little Baby should not be $30. That's the stupidest thing ever. I paid him $100. That guy's going to end up dead or in jail at some point. There's no way he should be $30. Just like Little Dirk ended up going to prison. His card went from $20 to $100. DMX died. His card went from $10 to $1,000. These assets are mispriced. And so people now see that.
I didn't know who you were talking about until you said DMX. Keep going.
Here's the problem. So when I make a repack, let's say we make a repack of entertainment, and you know what? The prices start going up, and there's more great cards. The reason there's so many cards available now that you love these great people signing. Look at who Leafs had signed recently. It's amazing. They got Margot Robbie to sign. They got I got The Rock to sign before Topps did. Like those are insane things. But it's only because of the economy we built here. And again, the repack is so critical because, yes, the manufacturers cannot make these high-quality products they're making, these ultra-high-end products and these cool technologies without the economics of the industry being at this scale. We just can't. So if this scale takes a step back substantially, the quality of products and the content will take a step back substantially. And I think not just do we like liquidity, but you drive a car off a lot, you lose 20% of your money. The minute, if you take it back 30 seconds, the minute the limit law is over, you take it right back, you lose 20%. Here, if you walk off for 4 days, if the market hasn't changed, you may lose 10. You lose less than you will buying a car. The liquidity of cards is so much more healthy, but it also fuels everybody in the food chain.
You mentioned the Clemente rookies. How much of what you're buying and just people that you know that buy? Because honestly, I thought vintage was kind of off the table, you know, to some degree. How much is, and the reason why I asked that is because that's going to artificially inflate prices. And I mean, look, the heaviest collector bases are the vintage collectors. So I'm just curious how many, you know, like what does that volume look like?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think first off in the beginning, only Backyard was really doing vintage. Now I did a vintage repack in like 2015 called Legends of the Diamond. It was only pre-1970 baseball, which was pretty insane. If you look back at what I put in there, there was a 52 Mantle autograph PSA 4 in ballpoint ink with a 10 auto that at the time was worth $25,000. That was the big chase in my box. It sold for $1.5 million or $2 million recently. And that was in my repack box in 2015 as a $25,000 hit. So again, the value of what's in these boxes, it doesn't change the fact that there's still tremendous long-term potential or liquidity to what you pull out. But vintage, it used to be just Backyard doing it. And I went to the other breakers and said, what is wrong with you? Do you not realize that collectors would love to get something that they could not pull in a pack in their lifetime? The same way that's what I tried to do in the beginning. And I persuaded. That's why you see people like Swish and like Bleacher now they had a 51 Bowman Mantle on their break today. 10 minutes before I came on here. A PSA 3 was in their break.
Before the long statement that you made about product and manufacturers and things like that, you started that with Steve. I have a question for you. And then it kind of went off the rails. And
I was trying to find an example. I was hoping you'd say something about sports cards. Because if you said sports cards, you were fried. Because you're not ever going to get any of these cool cards you like ever again if this thing falls apart. If the repackers were to go away, it's a chain reaction that we've gone somewhere since COVID that we can't go back. If we go back, we may never get back. The collectors cannot. I'll say this now. This is terrible to say. This is why Michael Rubin has to grow the customer base 10x. Not the dollars, but the customer base. The collectors cannot sustain this industry as they stand today.
But they're going to outprice everybody.
Well, that's a function of we have to have licenses. We have to have autographs. If we could just get rid of autographs and game use, just that, and just go back to cards, things would change really fast.
I guess, though, you know, it seems like I'm not saying there's not crossover because I know there is between collectors and gamblers, I'll say. I know there is some crossover there for sure, but there's also not a lot of crossover too. There's a lot of folks that just buy singles or they'll buy the random pack or box occasionally. And they don't care about the other side of the national. That's all the basketball games and the carnival stuff that's going on over there. how much of the marketing should Fanatics be putting into it? It just feels like to me when I see the marketing that's coming out of Fanatics, some of it is good. There's some good stuff that comes out, but a lot of it is tailored towards that side of things. It feels like to me that that's where they're trying to grow the customer base, as opposed to, attempting to grow out more of a collector base. I'm not in their company, so I don't see all the different efforts, but that's what it feels like.
Fanatics has done more in baseball the last 2 years than Panini did in 15 years of having the exclusive, as far as trying to grow the market. Because Topps, the one thing Topps has done is they have continually found ways to make cards the center of pop culture attention at various times. They've found ways for TV channels to not just Skeens 1.2 million. Forget that for a minute. I'm talking about the stupid hot dog on a card, or the dumb beaver on the field, or whatever, squirrel, whatever the hell it is. These funny cards they make, I'm telling you, people care about that. The commercials they run, they put serious money into advertising and promotion. Now, with that being said, are they perfect? Hell no. They're certainly not perfect. But they have done a good job of marketing. I think their vision of 10xing the market in dollars is not realistic. This market will never be 10 times what it is now in terms of dollars. Maybe it will be when dollars are worth 10 times more, 5 times more, but not anytime soon. But we can grow the number of collectors. And the vision is, and we're getting off topic, but if we can get every person in this country to just buy a card one time, don't give it to them at a stadium. That's bullshit.
Yeah, no, I heard you say that. I went back and watched your video recently too with Jeff, because I have a question for you later once we get through this. But the thing is if somebody's going to walk into a place and like, hey, how much is a pack of cards? And the guy go $45, they're going to look at you like you're nuts, because they're going to spend $45 on a meal, let alone a pack of cards that they're going to end up getting probably nothing out of. So to get that first person to buy anything, to make them feel like they got something special to continually keep buying, to fuel that want, I just don't see it right now. I mean, unless it's Pokemon, that's why it's so popular. It's affordable to technically get into.
Neo, go ahead.
I want to hear from Neo. He's a smart dude.
Go ahead, fire something up.
I'm still on the stream.
Read us some California. Read us some California legislature.
You have to kind of force your way in. I've learned that you got to force your way in. You got to push.
That's right. I talked.
Brian's not the problem.
Well, just
I haven't talked that much.
Just start yelling.
I haven't talked that much.
Just start firing shit out there, Neo.
You talked about it a couple times. Has the hobby become drastically over reliant on repacks? The ecosystem of the hobby. Are we out of whack? Are we out of whack right now?
We've gotten a little punch drunk on the positives that have come from repacks. Because what's happened is it has created a value increase and a liquidity where I believe cards would have gone down more substantially after COVID. That fall would have been devastating without repacks. Cards that were 100,000 that fell to 50 or 30, they could be 5. Because the collectors, the true collectors, they don't have the money to catch all those knives. They just don't. Recycling inventory saved a lot of people from a total collapse. I think it saved the industry, as funny as this sounds. It was a big piece of it anyway. But it caught a bunch of falling knives. It recycled, exposed things to people that they wouldn't have bought as singles, but they're re-exposed to the item through a repack. And some people even fall in love with items they pull in a repack. They did not realize they like a Protect Jambalayas because they never owned one. But when they pulled one in a repack, sometimes they go, holy shit, that is cool. And I think there's something that comes from that. So yes, I think we have become reliant on it somewhat. We love all making lots of money. The whole hobby, not repack. Repacks make less money than the average. There's people making a lot more money than repackers. Yeah. The online retailers are probably making way more money than repackers.
Yeah.
The people playing
like today, what Heritage, if you could get it, was $100 a box for hobby. But if I want to go 2 blocks down the street to my card shop, it's $195. Well, I already know it's $100 box, and he's already doubling the price on it.
And the funny part is the content hasn't changed. The market has changed. The market's pushed that price up. You think you have a chance of coming out opening that box? It's much harder at 200 than it was at 139.
Well, 200 is miserable. 100's at least fair, but 200 is miserable.
Are you worried about customer retention with the repack and break side? Because I know there's so much focus around, there's so much demand for this. There's so much demand for this. I'm of the opinion that there's just new people that are coming in. There's enough new people coming in, but I would really love to know. Nobody knows these answers because there's not any sort of, complicated polling on it to figure it out. But how many, if 80% of people lose on a break, how many more times are they going to get punched in the face before they just say, you know what, like maybe we just go and do something else, son? You know, like.
Well, funny, at Leaf, I never would have said this because it's not the politically correct answer, but I can say it today. I really don't care. If these guys buy these and burn out and decide they made a bad buying decision, then they'll have to decide if they want to be in the hobby in some other capacity or not.
But I mean, that just tells me that
you've got to grow the real customer first. And
but that tells me that this isn't sustainable, though. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
this is not sustainable, this path.
His business, we have all kinds of people walking in every day, drop in Steve's business. All kinds of people keep showing up. I don't know how. It's way worse because you have nothing to show for it. And I saw someone mention a slot machine that pays 97% over the long run. No one has the money to sit at a machine for the long run. The long run is how you get beat because the machine can outlast you.
I just feel that the hobby got introduced to the whales. It became an investment proposition for people. Other people started noticing it. Players finally started getting involved with buying their own cards and stuff like that. So there's a lot more big money in this hobby to compete with. And the majority of the hobby was not built on those people. But those seem to be the people that are keeping the hobby up for now. But how long until they realize that unless they have that less than 1% asset, nothing else goes up like that 1% asset, especially modern.
You know, and listen, I'm not even going to tell you the industry is going to fall apart today completely if repacks go away. What I'm telling you is your cards are suddenly liquid at 70% to dealers or 60%. So as long as you don't have to sell your cards, you're totally fine. It's if you have to sell your cards. Don't you love it that cards on eBay have a relatively tight range on most assets that trade?
I just think most people that are getting into the cards right now and or in them for the most part, they're not collecting, and everything is some form of liquid immediately, and it's usually at a loss, not at a gain, because they have to pay more to get into it. And that's where this whole cycle happens and we have the problem with, realistically.
Yeah, and I definitely don't see at least the ratios of people collecting ultra modern. You know, the percentage of people collecting ultra modern as to the people who are just buying it to flip it. I'm somebody that buys ultra modern strictly for flipping, and I collect vintage. So, you know, whether people are doing it to fund their hobby or to fill their pockets or to pay their bills, either way you look at it, they're flipping ultra modern, not collecting it. I'm going to say a higher percentage. The other term I wanted to use, because you used the term, or you said recycled inventory. You're able to recycle it. Right, able to recycle inventory through repacks that may have not been able to sell anywhere else.
No, that's
not sell anywhere else. Not sell anywhere else. Just there was a home for these cards. But what I'm talking about is recycled money, because like Dustin talked about the wheel earlier, a lot of the money going in and out of repacks is a lot of the same money. People buying into a repack, getting a card, selling that card, using that money again to buy into a repack. And they're losing a little bit at a time. Say, for instance, they buy into a repack for $500 and they get a $300 card. They sell the $300 card. They're down $200, but they got $300 more to go towards another repack. And that's recycled money. In the casino, we refer to that as false drop. False drop. Somebody sits down at a table to buy $100 worth of chips. They take $80 worth of chips to the cage, and they come back with $80 cash. They are not now into the casino for $180. They're still only into the casino. They're still only into the casino.
I think the difference is, don't you realize when someone goes to a store and buys a box of Heritage and they open it, if it weren't for repackers and people willing to buy cards at a premium valuation, those customers would run out of money even faster. Because the economy of repacks, I think repacks this year will constitute under maybe about 250 million, 300 million in sales. The world of repacks this year will probably be 300 million.
But what are the odds of someone going to a store and buying a box of Heritage and pulling a card that a repack actually wants to buy?
That's your first problem. Yep.
Well, no, not really, because companies like Bleacher buy as low as $10. They'll buy cards as low as $10. But again, no one knows that.
You got to get a $10 card out of that box.
Well, if you're not getting a $10 card out of it, then you truly must be a collector to buy it. And then what has to happen? The manufacturer has to make products that they build to the customer.
That's what I mean. We're getting choked out by that, because at this point, I mean, think about a box of Prism is what, $1,100, and sometimes you don't even get $50 worth of product out of it for resale.
Oh, sure. I've had that happen plenty of times.
That's what I mean. We're being choked out in different places to where we're all having to buy in bulk in order to get something decent. And there's the lucky people that obviously won $3 pack in their car and they hit $1,000 card, whatever. But that doesn't happen. We always see the good stuff. We don't get to see all the bad stuff. And there's way more bad than there ever is good.
Someone made a comment in chat that I'll summarize it. It was Dubs. Basically, here's the thing. The gap between the value someone gets in a repack and what they pay is called entertainment. If they don't get that value in entertainment, they'll go away. But if they have fun, they're paying for entertainment. If I go to a movie, I literally leave with indigestion from the popcorn and maybe some memories. Maybe
and what I was just talking about in repacks have that benefit. At the end of the day, I know I'm getting something more, even though I might be paying more, or even the same price than what I would be taking the chance of going and getting just retail or even a hobby box or going into a break under a team that I paid in. I kind of know more what I'm getting into, so I do think there's that benefit of those people that want a less offensive proposition.
Well, if you study the repacks like I have, I can tell you, when I pulled the Jaden Daniels PSA 10 for $57,000, I went in the chat before the break. They announced it was a $50,000 plus card. I knew the breaker's tendency because I watched it for 6 months. They do not hold big cards like that for more than 2 weeks. So I knew the card had to have traded in the last 2 weeks. Then I knew that they will not buy a card like that unless it comps on Card Ladder. So I went into Card Ladder. I looked at cards that sold for $50,000 in the last 14 days. You know what I found? 6 teams that card could possibly be. And I knew that streamer was not capable of buying a 52 mantle, so I could eliminate the Yankees. Mm-hmm. So I went in chat and I said, okay, there are 6 teams that are going to be this case hit. I told the whole chat, even though it's an edge I have because I kept track of it.
Yep.
Listed the 6 teams. I said, I will bet anyone in the chat $10,000 cash. You can have the other 26 teams. I just want these 6. And they weren't the best 6. I didn't have the Rams on there. I didn't have the Patriots on there. I had the Commanders on there, though, because I knew the Jaden Daniels sold 14 days earlier. Then I said, okay, no one took my bet for 10,000. I said, how about this? All it's 9 cards total. And I bet that case hit is one of those 9 cards. $10,000. I'll take 9 cards and you get every other card ever made. No one took the bet. And it was one of those 9 cards. So if someone studies the product well enough, you can be more educated than you can in a brand new product.
Oh, there's people that have edges. I know there's people that have edges because they constantly hit.
It's just like counting cards. There's absolutely an edge in breaks. If you know what you're doing, there is an edge.
Yeah.
I don't talk about it because honestly, I want people just to enjoy. I want people to enjoy it. And if they don't enjoy it, if it's killing them or if they're breaking up their families, stop it. Just stop it. If you're watching this, if it is messing you up buying into breaks, quit. If cards are messing you up, don't collect cards anymore. Take a break. For real. It should not ruin the rest of your life to buy cards. Cards are supposed to be fun. And I believe you can make money. I made a lot of money over my lifetime in cards. Even when I was a kid, I paid for college with it. And for good things, not just for greed. It was for college. You can you can do good and make good too at the same time.
We are going to wrap up Brian's segment. We've got an hour and 12 minutes. It's flown.
Can I ask Brian one quick question?
Wait, we're wrapping up already?
Well, not for all of us, but we're going to take Brian's segment.
I'm leaving. You guys can talk like
I didn't know Brian had to go.
No.
Yeah, I don't have to go.
No, I'm
Brian, I need to know what was this big thing you're supposed to change in the hobby that you have been working on behind the scenes?
I am consulting a major company on how to best tackle the future of this industry. I'm not allowed to announce yet. They'll announce it when the time
comes. Come on, this has been.
That's why I'm going to do it. I will tell you, for over 6 months, I have been doing this.
Does it mean boosting the repack and breaking?
No. It's about the industry as a whole. Someone that understands this industry from ground up, who's a collector, a store owner, a distributor. I was everything. I know what everyone feels in the food chain. The collector cannot feel abused when he opens a box of cards. The dealer cannot feel like they're not important. The internet retailer does serve a purpose. The retail brick and mortar serves a purpose. The streamer serves a purpose. How do we find this balance and make all of them happy? How do we make products that actually deliver better value to the consumer without crushing them on the price? I'm trying to be like a hobby CIO and a CHO in a sense, like a chief hobby officer. I want to be a voice of reason. Like we can fix some things that we've really effed up. Not that we've effed them up, but it's just evolved in a way where it's effed up. But I will say one thing that I know Neo's mentioned before, and I hope we have maybe Neo, maybe me and you should have the discussion at some point, the legal side of this whole thing.
Well, what I wanted to ask you was, in the next 5 years, do you think breaks or repacks are regulated?
No, I don't think they're regulated. I think what does happen is I think Whatnot tightens up the rules dramatically. At one point, they were going to force everyone to buy a third-party repack. I don't know if you knew that. And at first, the first list only had Leaf and Hit Parade on it. No other repacks were authorized by Whatnot. Then they've changed the rules because these guys had already built infrastructures around their own repack companies. But eventually, there has to be accountability. I don't care. It has to be accountability. If we say something's in that box and it's not, there has to be consequences. I'll tell you what shouldn't be legal. You shouldn't be able to have a 200 box run that you sell over 10 shows. And you say, oh, there's a $20,000 hit somewhere in these 200, but you only sell 12 on that show. You drag people along for a month. They don't know if it's in there or not until the very end when it suddenly comes up. If you say something's in the break, it better come out on that screen right then. You better not take the boxes off the screen so you can switch them around. That's bullshit. When you do the deck of cards, I'm watching you like a hawk. I'm a poker player. I'm one of the people who caught city breaks when they were like the guy pulled the second card from the bottom. Or VIP rips. He pulled like the second card from the bottom instead of the bottom. I caught it. I put it on Twitter immediately. That's a scam. I'm watching how they shuffle the deck of cards to make sure they're not just shuffling the top and not the bottom. All these things have to be cleaned up.
All right, Brian, we're counting on you because, as you said, you're a longtime hobbyist. You've seen it from every single angle. So I know that you hopefully you
follow up.
Oh, sorry.
Are you like literally kicking him off, or can we keep asking him questions? I don't know what you're doing here.
No, go through your questions, but then Brian, we're gonna move BG off and continue on. Yeah.
You have more important people than me to talk to.
No, we'll just
I'm good.
Hey, part two. Hey, part two. Part two. We'll have you back.
Neo, I want to hear this. Go ahead, bub.
Go ahead.
Should they be regulated in the next 5 years? Not will they. So I'm switching the question up on you. Do you think repack/breaking should be regulated?
Could it be regulated?
Not could, should.
Should it be regulated? I think people who are committing fraud should be prosecuted, and we should make some examples of scumbags. And I will testify when we find one. I will help point out the shit, and we'll straighten them out. I'll straighten them out because that can't happen. We've taken something that was not bad and we made it worse. Alcohol didn't have to be what it was, and then people abused it. We've taken things that were guns, there was a true purpose for them, and then we make them worse. We do this in our lives generally. Everything's to an excess, to an unhealthy point. We have to monitor, and as collectors, all the people in chat who are saying this is crap, this repack stuff, you know what we should do? Let's do something about it, guys. Let's watch the breaks. Let's add up the numbers, and then let's go on Twitter and say, you know what? That breaker's break last night, where they were crying about losing money the whole time, they made $7,888 on that break. This is the one place in the whole hobby. You don't know what Topps or Panini or Leaf or anyone pays for everything in their box, but you do know what the repackers paid. They paid 90 to 100%.
But I'm not saying the hobby should self-regulate. Do you think actual regulation from the states or government should be in repack/breaking?
No, I think local law, I think states or other law enforcement should prosecute people who do violate the law. If people break a law, commit fraud or whatever, we should do something about it. I don't think there's a need for legislation on this. Look, we can't even get legislation passed on important stuff in this country. You really think we're going to talk about trading cards? The only reason this law that you read about exists is there was actually some overzealous people that really got serious about the true grab bags back in the day. Jeff Novell, I don't know if you know this guy. He's a collector. He collects Philly stuff. He told me 9 years ago about this law. That's why in the early Leaf repacks, we put an extra card in the box that was a Leaf card, original content. Because then, even if no matter how you interpreted the law, you were buying original Leaf content.
Skirted the original.
That's the cleanest way. Now, if you make a list, like I'll tell you, the person doing it the best is probably what Fanatics is trying to do. They're doing 1,000 box run. They're listing every card, and every card is equally possible. Whereas on Arena Club, the big hit is only 0.35% chance, while all the other ones are 3.1%. That is closer to what people are calling gambling. The Arena Club model is much more questionable.
Do you think the money is going to get so big, though, now that someone's going to take notice? Like, I looked at Courtyard did $42 million in sales revenue in February alone. And they're not even like that big in the grand scheme of things.
I think what you're going to find,
those numbers start to get so large that I just feel like someone's going to look at that and be like, wait, what?
You're going to have two kinds of break customers. The ones that want to watch the actual box open and the ones that want to watch something on the screen. If you want to watch some graphics on the screen, you'll buy Arena Club or Courtyard or Fanatics Instant Rips. I think Instant Rips will probably be the most fair of the three because they're going to follow every letter of the law and do it right because they have to and they will. But that's one model. The other one is the guy who wants to see the box open with his eyes, have that interaction with a person instead of just a screen in the dark in their office at home, in the private. They can have interaction with people, community, all those things, and they want to see a box opened. So I think the repack business as a whole will grow, but I think it's going to grow on the digital pack side more than the physical. I think the physical repack is about as big as it's going to get. I think you're actually going to see it get smaller, the number of people doing it, because I think eventually the rules are going to get snapped down and all the little guys are going to be gone. And some of the big guys are going to say it's not worth it anymore.
Well, if the big guys are doing it, so I mean, if you could go onto a Courtyard or an InstaRips and rip a pack and immediately get an instant 90% buyback offer, and you don't have to touch anything, you don't have to mess with anything, just the ease of use is going to be so much better than me watching you rip a traditional box and then ship me the card and then I try to sell it and dealing with all that nonsense.
There are some things that are good about that. But there's also some negatives. You're recognizing losses right away. First off, they have one of these machines with sports cards in the Plaza Hotel in Vegas. And I've heard the gaming regulator is looking at that machine. Because
there's no checklist. There's
that machine, of course, they give you an instant buyback offer. So then with the casino regulators, they said, should this machine have to have a gaming license? Because it not only do you put cash in, but it offers you immediately cash out. And they're saying, how is that different from a slot machine? There's a randomness and it kicks out cash right then. It's very interesting. And the gaming commission is looking at that machine. I was talking to Nat Turner about it. We're like, this guy's got to quit doing this. This guy's an idiot. Why would he take a chance and put something in a casino like that and take huge risk, pissing off regulators for a machine that probably doesn't make that much money? It's silly. But with that being said, I do believe we have to control it. I think states, the thing is, if consumers complain and say this was unfair, this is illegal, whatever it is, when it's wrong, they will eventually listen. But when it's not wrong, I think we have to quit pocket watching and let people do what they do. I'll never tell people they can't smoke, drink, go to strip clubs, whatever they do. Doesn't mean it's for me. I don't do any of those things, but it's their money. Let them do it.
Do you think you should have to be 18 to buy a no repack or a break?
Yes.
I think part of the issue is when you drink and smoke, it doesn't make my life more expensive in that world. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the whole issue. I think when people are
it just kills you when either they run into you or the secondhand smoke gets you one way or the other. Everyone's personal rights will infringe on someone else. Listen,
that was a hell of a stretch, Brian.
When I go to a Brazilian steakhouse and they bring me meat, I eat more than the average guy. The other people are getting worse service because I keep eating the steak. So what my rights and privileges are going to infringe on people, so are yours and anyone else's. I think the reality is the people in chat, I challenge you to say, you know what? Don't just say you hate this. Go right now. Go watch some of these. Do the math. And you're going to be shocked. Some of these guys are not making money. They used to make money, but it's getting way tougher because there's too many people doing it. And they're not all fair. And the ones that are frauds need to be exposed. When they lie, they've got to be exposed. And Whatnot will boot people. They hate that. No profanity. They hate that. I talk to them every week about things that are wrong with the site. You shouldn't be able to PYT teams because then someone has an advantage if they happen to know what the box is. They could literally buy a team that they know the box it is if they had an insider there. You should never be allowed to PYT a team. Pick your team. It should never be PYT. It should always be random. Is the Whatnot reel truly random? I don't believe it is. I don't think a random number generator operates that. I'm studying that right now. I do not believe the wheel is random, and I refuse to buy into breaks that use a wheel because I don't believe it's random. So again, we misunderstand. I argue for repacks because it's a part of this business that it's making it a better business, a better industry, and a place where what you own in your collection, if you ever give up on it, it's worth more today as a percentage of market value than it's ever been worth. And it will never be worth more than it is today. 90% is as good as it's going to get. And God forbid if something happens to any of us and if I have to liquidate my millions of dollars worth of cards, God, I pray I'm able to get at least 90% or 100%. Because if I only get 60 or 70%, someone's going to be in a bad mood.
Steve, I feel like you have something to say.
Well, now, like there's a comment down here. I mean, there's a reason why repackers are buying at top dollar. They wouldn't be buying 90, 95% of comps if the money on the other side wasn't fairly lucrative. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of stuff. I mean, I feel like each one of us have a lot of stuff that we could ask and say. And
Dustin said he has to go
right now. Yeah, but I just feel like we're all kind of like, and we all have different points. But something I wanted to address, but Brian talked about it so long ago that it's not even worth like bringing it back up. Like I couldn't ask at the time. So
All right.
Hit real quick, and I'll put it on my Twitter. I'll answer it for the whole world.
okay, it wasn't. You had went back to talking about the entertainment side of it, where people buy in for the entertainment and whatever the entertainment value of it as opposed to the money value. But we had already stated earlier in the stream that that a higher percentage of people do it for the money. So I thought that when you then mentioned later in the stream that, the side of it of people that do it for entertainment, I just thought I was kind of like, well, where are we at here with this? Because earlier in the stream, it was more so for the money. And then, there was something else. It'll pop in my head. If somebody else got something, there was something else in my head, but I just
I think I go back to the gap between what you pay and what it's worth. If there's a gap,
Mhm.
if it's not entertainment and you don't enjoy it, you're doing the wrong thing. Either
Right.
then you're a person who wants to pay to be abused. You know what those people are. They hire people to abuse them. They are either sick or they have some issue. People do this because they do like it. People
Right.
are doing this. If they didn't, they wouldn't.
But I'm going to say, with that being said, if you cut out the people that did it for the money and you just had the consumers that were doing it for enjoyment, your prices would either be slashed in half or the repack wouldn't have any legs to stand on.
And I would argue the quality of products would be horrific from every company.
That could be true as well.
They saved a free fall.
Right. And whether or not the products are being put out are shit or not, it doesn't negate the fact that the legs would be chopped out from underneath the repack if you didn't have the people that were in it chasing for the money. Same with the casino. I get it. I'm in that business. If we didn't have the people coming in that were coming to win, we would lose probably 75% of our clientele and our business would cease to exist. So,
but when you buy a box of Game of Thrones and you don't pull Emilia Clarke and you get 3 losers, Conrad, whoever, whatever these people are, that sell for $3 on eBay.
Mhm.
If you didn't enjoy it, you're not going to last long either. And what I'm going to tell you is, at the end of the day, the market will correct itself. If these things become boring and no fun, people will stop. They will.
But I'm going to tell you from personal experience.
They're more fun than sitting in a closet.
You've actually talked a lot more of your personal experience than you have over the repacks as a whole, which is fair. But my personal experience, and this is me, so I'm not saying this applies to anybody else. If I want to open a wax, which I don't do much, but if I want to do it for enjoyment, I'm going to buy a cheap product because it doesn't matter to me if I get a hit that's worth money, because that's not why I'm opening it. Case in point, I had a death in the family a couple weeks ago, and I was like, you know what? It'd feel good to sit down and open a blaster. So I went to my Walmart and they had blasters. I know I'm not going to really hit anything in a blaster. And in fact, I bought WWE cards. I didn't even buy the basketball or the football. And I sat down with that blaster of cards and I just opened it because I wanted to look at the designs and I just wanted to have fun opening a cheap box of cards because it made me feel good in that moment. It took a lot of shit off my mind that had been on my mind for that week. In that 10 minutes or 5 minutes it took me to rip that blaster, it took my mind somewhere else. And that's what a lot of people use this hobby for, to take their mind somewhere else. And unfortunately, a majority of what you see in the hobby right now, and I'm not saying a majority of what it is, but a majority of what you see at the forefront is scams and scandals. And this person did this person did that, rip off this, rip off that, big money here, making money here. And the backbone of the hobby is lost there. And that could be just a changing of the times, because again, most of the people that I think that are being 10x'd by fanatics are being 10x'd by the smoke and mirrors of, man, I can get rich. I can get a Paul Skeens that's going to make me retire. Right? If that person wanted that Paul Skeens card, it would not be owned by Dick's Sporting Goods right now. And do you think that Dick's Sporting Goods bought that card because they are a collector? No, they bought that card because they think it's an investment asset.
No, listen, first off, I'm very glad you got to enjoy WWE as a way to get away, because that's what cards were for all of us at one point. They were an escape or something fun. They were a dalliance, whatever. So first off, I think that's awesome. Second, those cards only exist because the rest of the hobby grew enough to be able to subsidize things like WWE. There would never have been wrestling cards otherwise. because in the 1980s they weren't sustainable, in 1990s they weren't sustainable, in 1990s were a glut period, they weren't sustainable. So it's good that we have these things because we've grown the business generally. But I agree with you 1,000%.
But hold on. In hindsight, it's also because those businesses have grown. Because in the 80s, WWE or WWF was not much.
But you'd buy something else besides
So,
cards. 'Cause
Hold
cards,
on. But Panini or Topps would not be making WWE cards if they could not make money off of it, if it was not a marketable product. So by WWE making themselves marketable, they made themselves desirable.
So we need to thank Vince McMahon.
but
So
it's a rising,
they made themselves
rising
desirable as something
shit.
desirable to be made.
But see,
Right.
no one wanted basketball cards until baseball cards were good. Then they wanted football. Then they wanted basketball. Then they wanted golf, tennis, wrestling. So my point is, when all the other ones fall, that's coming down hard too. And when companies have to make a choice, trust me.
Yeah, but by that argument, you're saying people are only collecting certain things because they're being forced out of what they love. And that's not true, because I collect pop culture, and not because I was forced into it, not because it's affordable. I collect it because it's what I love, not because I'm outpriced.
My favorite
anywhere
too.
else.
That's why I did Pop Century. To me, it was the most important thing we'd never done in the hobby. Panini failed with Americana, and I wanted to make a celebrity-driven set.
Right.
It was just freaking cool.
I get that and I understand that, and that's a cool set, and that's got cool stuff in it. I like that stuff, but that's getting off topic of what I'm getting at. WWE made themselves a valuable asset. That's why Panini and Topps want a WWE license, not all of a sudden because they're going to make cards of them and build the WWE brand. That's not how it works. They're not going to invest into a WWE license unless they feel like it's going to make them money on the other end. They're not just going to be like, hey, let's start making wrestling cards and maybe it'll catch on. No, WWE is huge right now. We're going to start getting into the wrestling card business because it's going to make us money on the other side.
Sure. I agree with what you're saying there, to the extent that there is demand and those sort of things. But again, last thing I want to say, and then I will go because y'all can have good, intelligent discussion without me. I think at the end of the day, what Fanatics is doing, again, I think the skiing stuff and all that, that's all great. It's great for that customer base that cares about that, these high-dollar cards. I think that is an important customer to cater to because they exist. But I'll tell you what they are doing. Did you go to Fanatics Fest in New York? It was the single greatest hobby fan event of all time. Not about buying cards, not the best card show ever. You could walk down the WWE aisle to walk out music and the whole place cheered for you. And you got to be a raving lunatic. You got to shoot hockey goals. It was Fan Fest for the card collector. And it was special. It was a special place to be. Right. And they lost millions and millions of dollars putting it on. But you know why they did it? Because they want people who are general sports fans for once in their life to be exposed to a trading card. And if we're lucky, instead of giving it to them free at a stadium where they'll throw it on the ground or throw it away, we'll make them buy one. Because
so it was an advertisement.
That's why, partially, but that's why I made cards at Leaf.
So it was an advertisement. You just described an advertisement to me.
No, but you have to expose people to things sometimes to even know that they exist.
Yeah, I know.
You have no idea how little people
know advertising.
Cards are a big deal. But when
it's it's a business. I'm not down in it.
I made a card of Ed Sheeran. People bought that card that never, ever bought a card before because they liked Ed Sheeran. And that's cool. And so I think that's where Fanatics, they're going to hit on both cylinders. So the good news is I think they're going to achieve what we all want them to achieve, but they're also going to achieve it in other areas where we're not as tickled, which is the high dollar, 1.5 million. So few people are playing in that zip code. It's just like a dream. It's
right.
like
and even in a big event like the Fanatics Fest, not everybody, and in fact, a very small portion of people, whether or not they can afford it or get there, get the time off work, whatever, are going to be able to attend an event like that. That's the same thing as saying like Disney World has built a huge experience for people to come visit, but not everybody can go to Disney World. So again, it was a marketing thing for Fanatics. I don't think it was a customer appreciation.
No, it's not. It's about exposing people to things to our industry. Our industry, unknown to 80% of people in this country, have never bought a trading card. 90% have never bought a trading card.
Right.
That's how you can 10x the hobby. If they could get the rights to Taylor Swift, and no one ever will, because I offered millions and millions of dollars. You understand, if they made a Taylor Swift card, 40% of the people in this country would be the addressable market for that trading card. Nothing even close. It would be the best-selling Topps Now card of all time. They would sell 1 million Topps Now cards of Taylor Swift. 1 million. Not 500,000, 300,000, 50,000. 1 million, 2 million, 4 million. And then what happens when we can get Billie Eilish? And what happens when we can get all these pop culture people that are so everybody loves them? The Wicked girls, Ariana, and this is the future. This is how we're going to grow this thing, because they will grow into people who will become at least like you, who say, hey, cards can be fun. And some of them will say cards can be fun at a higher price level, and some will think it's good at a lower level. So I think we have to pray that they're successful instead of hoping that they fall apart or do it. People who hate it or whatever. We should be praying that they're successful in growing this market. But in the meantime, repacks, the bottom line, until Whatnot does what they should do and start cutting some of these people out, we need to start policing it, finding the abuses, and telling Whatnot, these guys are lying on their stream. It's not okay. Stop it. And the hobby's shown when they put a backlash on someone, they can make things happen. Things have happened because hobby people have said something. They have. May not be as severe as people want, but they have happened. Now it's time to all say, okay, we can be those policemen until the real police show up.
All right, Brian, we'll flex your muscle and make that happen, man. We're all hoping for it. We're all rooting for you.
I hope sometime I can come on and just be a card nerd instead of a defender of a category. Yeah. I think it's critical.
Well, we started with the war. Yeah, this will be kind of like the story arc.
To be honest, I'm a total. I used to go on Drew Hernan's show. Although I would never want it now, but I used to go on that show just to talk to Dr. Beckett and them because I just like cards. And it's so funny because no other CEO or owner of a card company really collected. It's kind of funny. I was like, there was a time where I was the only one that really was a collector. That's crazy. But I've loved this. It's been my whole life. I'm retired. I'm retired. I can't even stop. I got all the money. I can't stop.
Neo, do you have anything else that you want to add, or Ham, Steve?
If I ask what I'm going to ask, it's going to keep going.
Yeah, we better not do that because right now Dustin's ready.
It's going to revolve around. It's going to revolve around grading.
What was your last PC pickup, Brian?
I bought the Pat Mahomes Green Kaboom 101. It sold in Fanatics Collect for $60,000.
All right, give us one more, a card that you're holding for 10 years.
I'll say it.
Throw out one. Throw out one that you're like, I love this card.
Outside of my PC is the iconic rookies. It's Jordan Mantle and real rookies. I bought that ugly Mantle that was on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it, the one with the hole punched in it for $16,000. I bought a Mantle with a hole punch. I love it because it was so loved. Like the card is what a hobby card should look like that was really around in the 1950s. That's why I bought it. It makes me have thoughts about the hobby that are pure and not corrupted. But besides those iconic cards, I am putting every penny of free dollars I have into green and gold kabooms.
Really? Interesting.
Because I believe they are the next precious metal gem. Panini loses basketball in 4 months. They lose football in just over a year. There's never going to be a licensed kaboom again. And what everyone says about these lawsuits, no matter what happens, Panini will never, ever have a license again, ever. If somehow a court said monopolies aren't okay, they'll give the license to Leaf, Wildcard, or Upper Deck. They will never give, because you can't go after a league and fight with them and then expect them to be your buddy after the fact. They're dead. They've killed their golden goose. It's time to go back to Italy.
They're going non-sports. They're going non-sports.
They're done. They're going to make whatever they make. Maybe they'll make more Beach Boys cards. Those were very cute. But the reality is, we're in a new world now. And we're in a world where all those classic things that the things Panini did do right, were making cards that weren't autographed or game used good again. Like they made regular cards pretty good. Like a case hit means something now. Like they took paper and made it good. That's been very rare. So now I think as a collector / investor, that's the stuff I want because there's not going to be enough of it when everyone runs for the exits.
I mean, the biggest thing in the past that we've complained about, or what with the whole non-license, is the airbrushing. You know, we've always heard about the Pacific thing when in the 90s, where they basically, that's a work uniform. I took a picture of them work uniform, like I should be able to show that. Will anybody ever challenge that again? Because Panini's only chance is that.
Well, see, Upper Deck tried 2009 Upper Deck versus MLBPA or ML Properties. They put logos on the cards in 2009 without permission.
Okay.
And they had to recall it all. And what happened is football and basketball called and said, if you don't recall these cards, we're taking away your licenses because you're not going to challenge logos. I mean, that's someone could challenge it, but the reason I didn't, it's a $50 million, $100 million lawsuit.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah, back in the day,
I was good with a $5 million lawsuit. Like Upper Deck was $3 to $5 million. I spent on Upper Deck's lawsuit with me. Yeah. I'm okay with $3 million, but I'm not spending $50 million. I work too hard to get money to give that kind of money away. Yeah. But doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, Joe Montana's rookie has no logos. Walter Payton's rookie has no logos. They're airbrush. Joe Montana's rookie's airbrush card. License. Boom! I love when people buy cards. That's good for the card.
Card. Tune into my next video in 6 months to see it.
81 Topps Montana is not licensed. Think about that for a minute. One of the most iconic cards of all time is unlicensed.
Undervalued too.
But it doesn't have any licensed counterparts.
It could have. They were greedy.
But it didn't.
They were greedy.
But I mean, it didn't. I'm just saying it didn't. It didn't.
So when Leaf comes out,
doesn't matter what the reason is.
when Leaf comes out with DJ Lagway right now, and there's no Topps counterpart, his rookie card should be Leaf. It's the only rookie card. Why is it not a rookie card? Because it's unlicensed and there's no counterparts. It's just this whole business has become everyone argues for what's in their own interest.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Repacks are a little bit my baby, so I want them to be successful. But if they really are the bad dynamite only and never the good dynamite like Alfred Nobel's, then we got to get rid of them. I don't care if I help come up with it.
I don't think that at least from my standpoint, the thing wasn't coming to come on here and say that repacks are 100% bad, because like the question I posed multiple times, is there people that enjoy them? Yes. To remove an aspect of this hobby, whether I like it, enjoy it, agree with it, whatever, from someone that does enjoy, that is what they do enjoy in this hobby, that's what they take away from it. For me to say, hey, cut that all together, wouldn't be fair to that group of people that enjoys that part of the hobby. I get that. What I'm saying is I just want things to be fair across the board. People do know going in most of the time that they're not going to win. Like Neo said, there could be some sort of regulation. It would be super difficult to do, I believe, but it's just transparency, and not just in repacks, across the hobby. But I do think one area of the hobby that's really lacking in transparency is in repacks. And I'm not saying on your side, because you told us about the history.
No, but you're right.
But
you're right. People there has to be an accountability, and Whatnot is in a position to do that. They are in the position to require their sellers to be that, and I would challenge them. I like Whatnot. I like a lot of things about it. I like the addressable market, the interaction, but I think at the same time, with great power comes great responsibility. They've got to take the reins and say, we can do something about this. And the repacks that are illegal or fraudulent or commit consumer fraud every freaking day, those need to be dealt with at the minimum of disappearing, if not with legal consequences. And if you're a collector and one of those repacks actually broke the law, you may have a claim there. And you know what? Your voice is not as quiet as you think. And support the ones that are good. You don't have to be mine. It can be any of them you think are done well. It could be Fanatic, it could be Courtyard, it could be maybe the digital's the future because they're going to have higher levels of accountability. But whatever it is, I think I appreciate the fact that you're open-minded to people being able to buy what they like, whatever that is. And I hope that we can get rid of the bad actors everywhere, whether it's guys making fake refractors, which Neo did a thing about this week, whether it's guys overgrading their cards on eBay and telling you they're near mint to mint when they're really got creases in the back, or any other fraud meister in this industry, guys that sell loose packs that have all been weighed, whatever it is, X-rayed packs, whatever scam they come up with these days, we have to hope that there's less of that shit. I'm sorry, we just got to get rid of more of that shit. We got to police it. And when we see something wrong, we got to call it out. And if you tweet me, if you copy me in the tweet and you call out something wrong, I will spread the word. And I'll say that's bullshit. And Whatnot does care. I have a call with them every week where I tell them every week things that I think could be illegal or wrong. Because there are things that are happening in breaks that I'm not sure are legal. There are some. Some people are doing it right and some people are doing it wrong. And I'm not going to tell everyone what's right and wrong because it's not my job to be the whistleblower and get people's livelihoods destroyed. But I will tell you, there are lawyers looking at who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong as we speak. Some very prominent hobby lawyers look at these things. If you can figure that little tip. People are watching this.
We know.
All right.
So
And I just think so far when it's come to having a backbone, at least when it comes to people that are really going to affect the bottom line of Whatnot, they haven't shown much of it, of a backbone, that is. And right now, that's the experience that we have to go off of. So until they make some changes or show us that they actually are going to hold people accountable, how can we put any faith into?
I do agree. I do agree. We haven't really seen it with the high-profile guys. We've seen some slaps on the wrist, some 3-day suspensions. I mean, I got suspended for 3 days.
I mean, this kind of reminds me of it's a burgeoning industry that's becoming bigger and bigger. And what always happens, it happens every single time It's happened a ton in financial services too, where there's always a few bad apples that really screw it up for everybody else that's trying to do it, is trying to do it the right way. And that's what it feels like right now, is that we've had a few years of really easy, kind of stupid, scammy money, in some of this stuff. And I would be shocked if in 5 to 10 years, assuming it is Fanatics that's still kind of owning the space, and I would assume they would want to clean it up. I don't see it. It just can't operate. It won't work long term. It's not sustainable.
I am 100% confident the Fanatics wants to see this cleaned up, and I'll go as far as to say Panini, even losing the licenses, I think they want to see it cleaned up, because it's not sustainable when the business has such a high level of fraud, and there's a lot of fraud that goes on out there. The fact is, John Dillinger said, "You know why I rob banks? Because that's where the money is." And that's what the fraudsters say. If you ask them, where do you commit fraud? Cards are a great place, because that's where the money is. So that's all I'm going to say. We have to stop the stuff. I hope that just arguing about it a little bit, I hope people just say, hey, you know what? This Brian guy is half full of shit, and half the things he says are practical and meaningful and they're right. But the other half of me thinks Steve is completely right, that we don't really need it. But guess what? We can both exist in an ecosystem, in an economy of cards. We can both exist. Collect stuff that's not 50 to 5,000. You want it to pay 90%. You only got to pay 90% on things 50 to 5,000.
You definitely have the ghost of Don West fire in you, Brian. I mean, you got the passion, no doubt. But
that was the first offer. I turned that offer down. When I sold Leaf, someone offered me a selling opportunity to be a new Don West, and I said no. They thought it would be quite fun if we actually did a major home shopping type show, but with high quality items. And I was like, absolutely not.
We got some Neo chants in the chat.
Neo. Yeah, not if you're alive. Neo. Not if you're still alive. All right.
Hey,
boys, anything else? Neo, anything else before we let Brian? It's getting late. Well, I guess it's only 9:50 for you.
Yeah, I'm a spring chicken. I'm only 50.
Let's hold for a part 2. We got to keep the people wanting for more.
That's right. And it doesn't even be about repacks. It can be about anything hobby, because again, I've seen all the things in the hobby that frustrate all of us. Redemption cards, they suck. All the different things that happen. When you got Panini points, you had to pay to get your redemption sent to you. Are you kidding me? Like, there's things in this hobby that make no sense. And someone's just got to say, what the F is wrong with these people? Do they not know anything? Go to McDonald's and order a Happy Meal and say, I'll take my Happy Meal. They say, we'll call you in 4 to 6 weeks with your fries. You're out of your mind. I'd kill them. So anyway, there's going to be lots of fun to talk about. But it doesn't have to be this topic. It can be something we all agree on, because cards are awesome.
We'll have you back for sure, BG, if you want to come on. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for debating with us, battling with us a little bit. It's always good hanging out.
I love you guys love cards.
Hey, hopefully we'll see you at the National coming up.
You will, man. Maybe then you'll know what I'm doing. Talk to you guys later.
That's what you told me last National.
Yeah, no, I was hoping we'd know by now, but I just got to work in the background,
All right. Thanks, BG.
Be good, boys. Take it easy.
Brian.
Oh.
All right. Wow, man. BG is a man on fire always. Never a dull moment with that guy. Never a dull moment. I feel like I need to gather myself. The guy's
we talked about repacks all the time.
Yeah, I need to get on and buy some repacks after talking with BG. My God.
Pull up Courtyard IO, buy a pack right now.
Start our own.
Open it up, baby. We can start our own. We've talked about it. So.
The off-centered.
We're gonna use Steve's cards in the repack.
Shit. I just dropped 25 cards. I just dropped another 25 off for grading, so I have 55 cards out right now.
So we have a good repack coming.
No, I got some more stuff in the mail, Ham, that you would like. These other guys, they don't understand, but
Brendan Ryan has a really good comment. Just like
Brendan Ryan has many good comments.
Let me find
which one. This one?
Yeah, that one made me chuckle.
Need rebuilding now. PSA has to redefine what that means. Funny, Brendan.
We're Wednesday night 60-40 instead of off-centered.
Dustin, I tried to use your promo code today at GameStop, and they said you can't.
Why? Oh, because you're already a customer?
Because GameStop's already not a first-time customer.
Yeah.
I'm not a first-time submitter.
I saw that.
But I tried to go under my alias so I could get the $25 discount.
I'm working with PSA on another thing. So hang with me. I'm working on another promo. I'm always working on another promo.
I thought we were supposed to agree with SGC, Dustin. What happened?
I haven't seen Pete since the sale. I haven't seen it.
They
He was
got
on
Pete
Instagram
banged
yesterday.
up.
He popped up on IG yesterday because I guess I'm talking
PT
about it.
double OT. I'd have 0 Desmond Ritters coming back. I only have Desmond Ritters already.
Yeah, Pete's locked up like Sloth and Goonies, and they throw him a Baby Ruth. every
Why
once
did
in a while.
Cam B say scamming Steve? What's that mean? Am I scamming somebody? Isn't
No,
it Cam?
That's Cam anyway. Cam's it.
Isn't it
He's doing
Cam?
repack right now. That's Mr. Repack.
Oh, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about if I did a repack, it'd be scamming Steve instead of flipping Steve. I guess that's what it's getting at.
Yeah.
did pick
By the
up
way,
another
this
one
is-
of those
By the way, this is
eternal
the guy that won our national giveaway, Steve's national giveaway last year.
So it's funny. I woke up this morning and I said to my wife, I was like, I have to drop off another submission at GameStop. And she was like, well, I just heard that GameStop is about to close a whole bunch of stores. So you better be careful dropping your cards off at GameStop. I then go over to YouTube, and the first video in my algorithm is Neo talking about the money that GameStop has made off of the collectibles thing. And I'm kind of like, okay, so who am I going with here? My
They are
wife
closing
telling-
stores. She's not
my
wrong.
wife telling me that they're closing down, and maybe I should be careful taking my cards there. Or
They're
Neo
closing
telling
the
me
ones that
that
aren't
they're about to
making
become
money.
fully that they're probably going to become fully collectible soon and shy away from the
I'm going to think about buying some GameStop stock at this point.
my
they're-
GameStop or the GameStop I went to today did have secondary market wax in there.
Yep. You're just switching their model up. They're just going with what's hot.
What's crazy is didn't GameStop say they've graded 1 million cards?
Not quite yet, but close.
And PSA graded 1 million cards from 1990 to 2000. And GameStop's already done that number.
Right. And this is some stuff that I got. So I went to a different GameStop for my 30 card submission. And when I took that one in there, the guy was like, man, this is the biggest submission we've ever done. We usually get in somewhere.
Yeah, well, that
between-
store's probably closing.
Right. He said we normally get one to 10 cards, and mostly they're TCG. And mine was a 30 card order. Today I went in with 25, and the guy was kind of like, oh, this is just a normal size order. And this was at a different store, but he was like, the sports card guys come in with larger orders. He said he's done a 125 card order for a sports card guy before. He said they do get a lot of Pokemon and TCG, but most of that is smaller 1 to 5 card orders. But when the guys come in with sports cards, they're usually like mine, like 25 and up. But they have more people that do the TCG and the Pokemon than they do sports cards.
They're getting about 90% TCG through GameStop.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Man, the TCG world on
That would be
fire.
GameStop's been up for about 5 months with PSA, so they're basically doing like 200,000 a month through GameStop.
Simon's asking why are you doing it through GameStop and just not direct? Steve.
Because it's a lot of work, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper for me to go through GameStop because they don't charge me shipping or
is it?
anything.
I personally think they grade them faster too.
There's no shipping for me to send them out, and no return shipping for me either. It's just their fee, which might be an extra $1 a card. So if I do 25 cards myself, I'm going to pay $1. It might be about the same price. If anything, it's $1 less if I do it myself, but then I'm doing all of the work, and I'm paying for insured shipping outbound, and I'm paying for my insured shipping inbound. If I go to GameStop, I don't have to pay any of the shipping out, which is going to be well over the amount of money that I pay extra for them to submit my cards. If I do 50 cards, it would be $50 extra if it's $1 more per card. I'm still going to save that on my shipping, and I don't have to do the work.
How long did it take you to do the 25 cards this time when you went in there?
They just have
Like
to
for
take
them to
photos of all of it.
Okay.
So they lay them out like 8 cards at a time. That's how big their platform is. And then they take a photo of them, and then they flip them over and they take a photo of them again. And then they put a UPC sticker on the back of all of the card savers so that they can scan them in and charge you for them. And then they take a photo of them again.
Yeah.
No,
Mike
they
Hedges
shouldn't have a
sends a bunch of
GameStop
cards
sponsorship.
in to get
Just 'cause
reholdered.
Just because I take my cards to GameStop to submit, this is only the second time I've done it. Doesn't mean that I should have a GameStop sponsorship, because I'm not saying, I don't even know how the experience is going to be. They might screw my order up.
Well, I'm sure we'll get some nightmares
Hope
out of
not.
GameStop as we move forward. Not you, but other people.
Oh, K-Mix says his does his each card individually. That would take forever.
That's what I've heard. That's why I asked how they do it. I think it's based on the person doing it.
Well, both of mine have done.
Mark,
Both of the ones that I did. They did it the same way, where they have a little mat and they fit how many cards they can put on there.
Bob Booz, I'll have to rewatch this stream closely at 0.5 speeds. I gotta have a chance at Steve's trivia contest.
I don't think I'll hit any trivia from this one.
Yeah, BG did most of the talking here. Like we thought that was going to happen, but he's a spin doctor, man. He's a spin doctor. He spun right out. He's got some spin moves. Spun right out of some of my questions, but entertaining dude for sure.
Oh yeah,
entertaining guy.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of stuff I'd like to get his opinion on at least, but that'd be a whole nother 2 or 3 hours in a show.
Yeah, I feel like each one of us had questions we could ask, and I feel like they were all different. I don't feel like any of us had the same.
Well, I have a set of questions
we were going to ask.
So I can ask him. I watched a few videos that he had done prior, the most recent ones that he'd done, just to get some stuff if we needed to bring stuff up specifically, but would still be decent questions to ask based on what his knowledge or theory that he's got from the hobby, because he does have a lot of experience. He's
been doing WWE, like cutting promos.
Let's see who's got balls. Come join Big Brian on the debate stage. Who's up? I'm ready.
How many takes did he get that in?
I want to see him with face paint on now.
PTWT has a
hold on. This is us trying to deal with BG.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
That was basically the first 2 hours of the stream. All right. Well,
so like one of the questions I wanted to ask him was, can anybody actually save Beckett? And if so,
that would be that's a 60-minute answer.
PTWT.
I can answer that right now.
No, Rob, we know your answer.
So
Tag. I just had Ryan from GemRate run me custom data on the top 5 sets that each card company is graded in 2025, and Beckett's is a factory of sadness.
I think Ziggy's funny. I think Ziggy thinks he's like this real hard ass that people are scared of. Like I get along with Ziggy, but he's like, you guys were soft like ice cream. I mean, what did you want us to do to the guy? Like start cussing and cursing and getting personal with him?
It doesn't.
I feel like there's a whole lot of questions.
Didn't he just delete all the videos on his
channel? You can't force somebody to tell you something that they don't want to tell you.
Ziggy had to delete all his videos.
I mean, if you can, tell me how.
Not with a repack, and he can't have
them up with shoot him up with
like,
serum.
Better delete everything
in his face.
Ziggy's like looks like a hypocrite every time he opens his mouth. So it's good to just delete everything going back in time.
No cloning Dr. Beckett, Brendan. He's
past. He's about to launch a repack. You can't have that evidence out there of 65,000 videos of him hating repack.
Anyway, the upcharges, they make you sign a thing on the submission form. It's an electronic submission form, PTWT, that says I am aware of charges that go with up charges. I may be charged more. They'll probably use the debit card that I had on file.
Yeah, correct.
That I paid for with today. I'm going to guess. But they do put in there a thing acknowledging upcharges and that you can be upcharged if your cards hit a certain value. The only downfall, and for me, it's not a downfall, it might be a downfall for some, is that when you do submit your cards at GameStop, you do pay up front. It's not like you pay when you get your cards back, like PSA used to do. Or I don't even know if PSA still does that, but I know
if you go through a submitter, like for an example.
Well, it used to be if you submit yourself, you pay when your cards are about to be shipped back to you, or they hold.
Yeah, well, like when I used to go through Bryant, I don't send stuff to PSA, but the stuff I did send, I didn't pay him for anything until I got my cards back. He just would call and let me know, hey, you got upcharged on a couple cards. It's going to be this. So when you come in, just know that there'll be an upcharge added to that. And I'm like, okay. If not, he just doesn't give me my cards. So it's just.
I love like Ziggy. So debate me. I had literally had you on my channel for like 90 minutes. I've had you on my channel before. I'm not afraid.
This is new Ziggy. This is King of Cards Ziggy.
This is new badass Ziggy. He's proud. Come see me at the National. Debate me at the. I'll be there. Come and hang out. I'm not afraid to debate.
3 years ago.
I mean, what are you going to debate about? A debate is when you guys have disagreements on things, and a conversation is just when you
I
guys
don't think
talk
that they
about
agree
things.
on literally anything. So
No, but is there one specific thing?
What are you talking
the
about?
sky is blue. You could say the
I
sky
was
is
just
blue,
about
and
to
they
say
can
that.
debate both
I was
sides of it.
just about to say
This
that.
cup
I'll be
is
like,
white. No,
what a
it's
blue
not.
sky today, and he'd be like just losing his flopping on the ground, crying about how it's black. It's a black cloud. It's not blue. It's black. It's a black cloud. Yeah, dude, I blocked you because you put you found the time to put 974 comments on this one live stream. I'm exhausted. I don't have time. I just don't have time.
I'm surprised you didn't want the engagement and just kept them around for that.
Garrett says play touch butt. No,
Algorithm's going up.
not touch butt. I got 3 cards today in the mail, and this was an Instagram deal, and the person shipped them all in the same. Now it was 3 cards. They had them in a one touch, like a thick one touch that could fit 3 cards, but no soft sleeves, and all 3 of them on top of each other in one touch. And these weren't like cheap. Like these 3 cards were $250 for the
nice.
3. For the 3, one of them carried a majority of the value, but still, I was like, it's
the one in the middle?
It's the Bret Hart. This is the Bret Hart out of 5.
Oh, you've been going hard on the wrestling stuff.
Bianca Belair out of 25, and a Alexa Bliss red refractor out of 5. This was the one that was the
one.
The stake of the deal.
It should have been in the one touch by itself.
Yeah, right. A black refractor tonight just went raw for $316, and their black refractor is numbered out of 10. This is the red out of 5, and I got all 3 cards for $250. So I'm kind of feeling good about that now.
This is Elvis and Michael Jackson.
Oh,
you said Michael Jackson. Where's John?
If it was Smokey Michael and Diana, it would be a collectible.
They don't have the other two. I can only do so much. So I got the 2 kings.
John Reckoning's ears just perked up. You said Michael Jackson.
I mean, you rub the genie and it might come out. So you rub the lamp. Sorry to say that.
And I picked up this Randy Orton purple.
I did watch one of his episodes yesterday or the day before. I mean, he was cussing the whole time, but the standard stuff you expect.
That's all right. We're not kids.
He started off calm.
Ooh, John?
Yeah, John. Yeah, John. He started off mellow, and then he hit the pedal. He went from 10 miles an hour
to short.
He tags me in shorts like every
week.
Was
it short?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to catch up on that.
Yeah, there's a couple.
All right. Yeah, I shot a bunch of B-roll for a video today.
We got a Steve.
I got a video done. Done. It just got finished. It got finished.
When is it dropping?
It got finished at like noon today, so I don't like to upload. I like to upload at 9 a.m. So it'll probably upload tomorrow. Because I'm going to wrap it up while I'm going to the gym tonight after the live stream.
Look at you firing off of the gym at midnight.
It's best to work out at night. You don't got to fight over the equipment.
That and you go to sleep better.
Yeah, like Planet Fitness or a Crunch or something.
Yeah, I can go quicker. At Planet Fitness tonight, on some days, on days that I work out at the casino gym because there's a gym on the second floor of the office buildings. It's actually right around the corner from my office. I hear like weights and shit slamming in there when I'm trying to work sometimes. But if I have to work earlier in the evening, like 6 p.m., then I go into work around 4 p.m. and work out and then shower and stuff in the locker room and work, then go to work. If it's a day like today, I'll go later to Planet Fitness because I can go back and forth between muscle groups instead of having like a minute of downtime between my sets. I can do a set of something else because the machines aren't taking up. So if I'm doing biceps and back, I can do curls and then I can go do some lat pulls and curls and lat pulls as opposed to doing all my curls and then going to do my lat
backs
pulls.
And biceps and tries.
Have all that downtime. Anyway, this is not a fitness channel. I am not buff. I'm just trying to be healthy.
We're not the hobby box. The hobby box went all fitness, dude.
So I talked to Boris this weekend. Boris is 50-50 about coming on in the future.
Get Boris on. I probably still have his phone number. I should look him up.
He had a cameo in my video from the card show. I did sell him actually some Pokemon.
He's still going to card shows, right?
He does one a month right now, and he's usually at the St. Pete show. But he mainly deals TCG now.
I would like to. That'd be fun to have Boris on, just to talk about old times.
I'm loosening him up slowly.
Kyle says Neo make a video about how poorly Fanatics makes their cards, and down at 11.5, I think he follows it up with horrible quality control. Called them out. I would say that I've been buying a lot. Like I said, I just sent 55 cards off to grading within the last 2 weeks, and I've already started to build another stack. Like I said, I have 4 more cards come in today, and probably 3 more downstairs in my stack that I've started. Out of everything that I've evaluated, and it's risky to buy online raw cards because sometimes you can't see certain blemishes. Out of those 55 cards that I sent in, I evaluated 57. So only 2 of the cards that I evaluated didn't make the cut.
Oh, that's going to be a good reveal.
Yeah. So, and I'm pretty hard on my own cards. So, and I've done well, to be fair. But to be fair, that's about split. Some of that is a lot of Topps Chrome stuff, and some of it is some Panini Select and Panini Prism stuff. I will say the Panini Select in the WWE has been the most iffy. Select NFL, all NFL Select that I've gotten from 2023, raw has looked really good. Like the Bryce Youngs and CJ Strouds and stuff. Those have all I haven't bought a card yet that I've gotten in the mail and been disappointed with.
Even
Today was a Topps Chrome. That one looked good. Today was a Topps Chrome Stone Cold Steve Austin, numbered out of 13. It was a refractor that had surface dimples on it. So that would have been a Topps Fanatics product. And the other one that I took out was was an older card. It was a Topps Finest from like 2021. So that would have been pre. And it was a black refractor of Jey Uso, numbered out of 10. But it had a corner issue. And I think that corner issue was more so from being handled as opposed to manufacturer defect. Maybe I've just been lucky though.
I thought that the Sapphire version of wrestling it doesn't do anything for me versus just the regular Chrome version. Like they didn't do enough to it to make it.
They didn't really change it. They just probably added different colors to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been lucky. And I mean, this time last year I was buying lots of raw cards, and I don't know. Maybe I just do. Maybe it's part luck, and maybe it's part of when I look over the scans. Or
I also think a lot less people aren't trying to grade that are ending up with this stuff because a lot of these people hit this stuff in breaks anyway.
It could also be what I'm buying because not a lot of people buy WWE and grade it. That's why.
The stuff I follow on WWE has got 20, 30, 40 bids. Somebody's doing it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Not a lot of people. When I'm talking about in comparisons to football and when I'm talking about in comparison for football and baseball, I haven't really done anything basketball, mainly football. That's all I can really compare it at the moment. But when I compare it to football, there's a lot less people. And that's because the demand for WWE isn't as high either. But if that demand was to peak a little bit for graded WWE, there's not a lot of sellers out there. That's why you can actually find really good raw cards because people aren't, what do you say, going over them to be like, is this gradable? They're just selling them raw. Where if you get a good football card, they're going to look at it and be like, can I grade this? Nope, I can't grade it. Off to consignment or off to eBay. So I believe I believe you can find more grade quality cards in the WWE stuff right now than you can football. Long story short, I already made a long story long or short story long, but you know what I'm saying.
Good stuff, boys. We're over 2 hours, 2 hours and 10 minutes, 11:10 Eastern. I got to hit the sack. So I think that we did good tonight. We got BG on for part 1. We'll have him on again, along with the Hobby Box and Comeback Card Investor. This just a matter of time before Brad shoots on here. And there'll be others, I'm sure of it. Sasha T, we'll have a few others probably pop on. Just give us a little bit of time. Any last words, final words, Hambone, Neo?
No, I go to Scotland on Sunday, and so the next off center I might pop in, I may not because it'll be like 3 in the morning. There, I might pull a Steve, look for a prostitute in the morning.
I'm saying use some Scottish hookers. What's going on with that?
That would be must see TV. So make it happen, Ham.
I'll be out there. Are you a hooker? Are you a hooker? And then I get arrested just because I'm trying to interview a hooker.
Yeah.
I'll be trying to go live from Peru in a month with you guys.
All right.
That makes it better.
And then a few months I'll be in Italy and Iceland. So yeah, and actually, yeah. So I might have to do the same thing. Cool.
Yeah, they're supposed to have a big card shop over there in Edinburgh, so 15 minutes from where I'm staying.
Your wife is going to be like, "Why the hell are we at a card shop?"
She's already said she's 100% okay with it. She's there for Harry Potter anyway, so
I don't know if there will be card shops in Peru.
Okay.
There might be.
No, there's no card shops in Peru.
Lima's a pretty big city and it's pretty modernized.
Neo's probably going to 3 card shows this weekend, like usual.
Probably.
All right, guys. Thanks very much for joining for another episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Have a good rest of your week.
See y'all.
See ya.
See ya.